Solana. Welcome to the hot mix crowd, the Solana. Welcome to the show, 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 crowd, the Solana. Welcome to the show with the three amigos. Hot mix Crowder and Solana on FM radio. Them boys be sliding, so we riding and we ready to go. 100,000 watts full throttle, baby, ready to blow. We passing poker out to Jupiter, we got your attention. You can tune in anywhere, but listen at your discretion. To the legend, Mr. Hot Man can't stop from each other deuce. My brother got his own hot burger at Tucker Deuce. Now I rush more of these sports, spitting the truth. It's Channing Crowder, greatest Dolphins, who rock up 52. Solana one best of Miami, the voice of FIU. We reppin' to Miami, the Heat and the Panthers too. We reppin' for the Marlins, the Dolphins, that's how we do. We reppin' for the Crips, so it's always about the you. Hey Jimmy, please get Appel on the phone and tell him that it's on. I finally got his name on the song. Can't do it wrong, cause it sounds so sweet. Just spit the facts while I keep the crowd on their feet. Football season be the reason that I be bringing this heat. Georgia music representing 104.3. Hey, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. Without Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. It's Appel in for the trio today, along with Dan Day and Jimmy. Thanks, boys, for being here today on this President's Day. No big news today, except for the Nick Westbrook-Akine era is over in Miami.
Oh, no.
Some would say it ended a long time ago during the season.
The Dolphins have made multiple moves, but the headline, of course, the big move made to the wide receiver room, Nick Westbrook-Akine is no longer a Miami Dolphin.
Indiana Hoosier great.
What was your favorite Nick Westbrook-Akine catch? Which one of the 11?
You were going to ask me, I thought, what was your favorite Nick Westbrook-Akine moment? And I was going to say I was doing a post game and someone reminded me 3 games into the season that he was still on the team.
Well, we can do. Listen, it is President's Day. We might take a look back at some show Mount Rushmores from the past. So we might. I was thinking about asking you for your Mount Rushmore of Nick Westbrook-Akine moments, and clearly that's one of them.
Oh yeah. No, he had a catch late in the season. I don't remember who it was against. Once again.
Oh, what was it?
There was 11 of them, man. How am I supposed to remember all those?
I'm pretty sure Nick Westbrook-Akine over one reception was one of Hawk's like go-to prop bets during the Dolphins regular season. Obviously, the big news today, the Dolphins release Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins release Bradley Chubb. So we go into a day where none of the regulars on the show besides Jimmy are here. It's Josh Appel, it's Dan Day, it's Jimmy holding it down. And so you think, all right, hopefully we get a slow news day to get through these 4 hours. Nope, the exact opposite. The Dolphins rebuild and tear down is fully underway. The Tyreek Hill era is over. The Bradley Chubb era is over. The Westbrook-Akine era is over. And James Daniels, who played a whopping 3 snaps for the Dolphins this year after getting paid $24 million over 3 seasons. He is also no longer a Miami Dolphin. And, you know, it's one thing to expect these moves to come, right? Like we knew the Dolphins were going to look very different in 2026, but now we're starting to see those moves actually happen. And it's a bit surreal. The next one obviously to come is what's going to happen with Tua Tagovailoa. There's a report from Jordan Schultz today that the Dolphins still would prefer to trade Tua Tagovailoa rather than just release him. I would assume the Dolphins would try and figure out a way to maybe cover some of that contract and make it more appealing. But if teams know the Dolphins are either going to trade him or release him, why wouldn't the rest of the league wait for the Dolphins to cut him and then sign him for the cheap? Kind of like the Falcons did, kind of like the Russell Wilson situation after the Broncos released him. So we'll talk with Cameron Wolfe from NFL Network in the next segment about everything happening with the Dolphins and around the NFL. We'll talk with Jack McMullen, the radio voice of the Marlins, in the 3 o'clock hour. full squad reporting to spring training as of today. Everybody there in Jupiter. And then Olympic hockey in full swing. So we'll have George Richards join the show in the 4 o'clock hour as well. But, of course, we'll start and continue with the Dolphins. So this from Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. Releasing Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, James Daniels, and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, it clears almost $67 million in cap space and over $56 million for cap space in 2026. Now, one or more of these could be held until March 11th for additional cap savings. So basically, they're kind of determining, is this going to be a post-June 1 or a pre-June 1 cut? If it's pre, then you eat all that money this season and it's freed up moving forward. If you do it post-June 1, it kind of spreads out over the next couple of seasons. But it is the final nail in the coffin, Dan Day, on this era of Miami Dolphins football that got underway in 2022 in Mike McDaniel's first season when Chris Greer was saying, F them picks, slinging first-rounders for Bradley Chubb, 2 first-rounders for Tyreek Hill, trading first-rounders for trading other draft picks for Jalen Ramsey, and now we are seeing all of that evaporate. It is a new regime in every sense of it, in the front office, on the sideline, and we're going to see a lot of new players in aqua and orange in 2026, but it ends with such a thud, doesn't it, Dan? It really does.
Yeah, that's one of those things when we got all these big names, we said, like, we're in win now mode, watch out, we'll see what happens, and now it kind of just ends unceremoniously with just, And Jimmy asked me before the show, do you blame them? Can you understand why are they doing this? Like, it was inevitable, because if you're buying a brand new car, you're not going to buy a brand new car, then take the engine out of your old car and put it in your new car. You're getting a new car to get everything new, and that's what this organization is doing right now, and to be honest with you, since we haven't won a playoff game in 25 years, I don't blame them.
Look, we saw what the ceiling was for this group. It was 2023 when they were healthy. They were 9-3 with a 2-score lead over Tennessee on Monday Night Football with a chance to basically clinch the division and a home playoff game. They blow that to Will Levis and Tennessee, and really that's the jumping off point for the downfall of the previous regime and the previous iteration of the Miami Dolphins. It's still something that I'm sure sticks in the back of the head of Dolphins fans everywhere. I know that it sticks in the head of former members of the staff and former members of that team since then. But who would have thought that one game would change the trajectory of everything? We've talked about it on the show before. You're looking at a home playoff game and a division title. And who knows what happens if the Dolphins would one playoff game or they somehow manage to stay healthy. Maybe Bradley Chubb's not playing late against Baltimore because the game doesn't mean anything. They've already got that home playoff game clinched. They've already got that division clinched. No need to play Bradley Chubb. Maybe he doesn't get hurt and miss all of 2024. And so many what ifs, and it all starts with that Titans game.
It's a play here and there. Tyreek Hill doesn't get hurt in that game. Remember, he gets hurt, and they look just inept on offense for a short period of time. They get 1 first down at the end of that game, and the game is over. They get 1 stop, and the game is over. Instead, they didn't, and now the regime is down. And then also look back at that end-of-the-year game against the Bills, where you win at home, you're a number 2 seed, and you have the game kind of in hand, and then they have that big kickoff return, punt return, and you give it away. And that right there, I think that sealed it for everyone.
Throwing out routes to Chase Claypool, who's running the worst out route you've ever seen in your life, and Tua it gets undercut. But the Tyreek era, which had incredible moments, he finishes his Dolphins career 54 games, 340 catches, over 4,700 receiving yards, 28 total touchdowns, was a 2-time first-team All-Pro, and he was voted the NFL's number 1 player in the top 100 after the 2023 season. I do wonder what his legacy here is with the Dolphins, Dan, because there's no question that when he was on the field, he was arguably the most productive wide receiver in the NFL. And he provided so many incredible moments and dynamic plays that, as Dolphins fans, we had not seen since Marino, since that era. I mean, the Wildcat was fun, but what did we know this Dolphins team for? Constipated offense. If they were going to go down and score, 12 plays, 13 plays, 14 plays. They'd matriculate the ball down the field. With Tyreek Hill, One little quick slant, one deep ball, cloud of dust. He's one of the most dynamic players to ever put on a Dolphin uniform. But at the same time, what do the Dolphins have to show for it? Nothing. Not a playoff win. It's hard to reconcile like what his tenure, what we'll look back on and think about, because as great as he was on the field, he also had some off-field stuff. He wore out his welcome towards the end. We spent the entire offseason before this past season talking about how Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill and how they can regain each other's trust. Tyreek burned a lot of bridges at the end of the 2024 season, taking himself out of games. But there's no doubt about it that he is one of the most, if not the most dynamic player, non-quarterback category, in Dolphins history. How do you view it, Dan?
Yeah, that's exactly how I view it. I think when the lava cools, I know right now we're a little hot and we're kind of living in the moment of him quitting on the team and, his injuries and not winning playoff games. But I think looking back, we're going to look back as a player and we're going to forget as much as we can about some of the stuff off the field. He was very productive and he was all in on this team. And I think with time, we're going to look back on it. He is going to be one of the more beloved by the fans. Now, I don't know how everything else will play out like that, but I mean, I like Tyreek Hill. I like Tyreek Hill the whole time. I think as we look back on it, we're going to say Tyreek Hill on the field, he was the best player this team had and one of the best players in the league. And he always gave 100%, except for that one game against the Jets. He always gave 100%. And I think in the end, Dolphins fans in general are going to really, really look back fondly on Tyreek Hill. So he could have had 2,000 yards in a season if he wouldn't have gotten hurt.
That was one of the more, like 2023 is one of the biggest what-if seasons in Dolphins history. You think of all the injuries they dealt with at the end of the season, the game against Tennessee, and then having to go to Kansas City, which they were never winning that game. Man, it's frustrating to sit here and see the Dolphins after tearing it all down in 2019, here in 2026, doing that same process over again. Now, granted, to Stephen Ross's credit, I know we don't like to give him a lot of credit, but to his credit, a lot of the guys that were in the front office, not just Chris Grier, but other guys that were part of this previous regime, no longer there. This is all new people making these decisions, and you got to give them the benefit of the doubt to try and build this their way. What we do know is that 2026 is going to be a lean season, to put it in a way, and there are still obviously question marks about who's going to be taking snaps at quarterback in the regular season. Are the Dolphins going to make a move from Malik Willis? Are they going to make a trade for a guy like Mac Jones? Do they kick the tires on a guy like Kyler Murray, who is likely to be cut by the Arizona Cardinals? Or do we see Quinn Ewers? The Dolphins really go for a tank. Who knows? There'll be a lot of questions to be answered here for Jeff Hafley and JES in his first season as general manager. And again, we'll talk to Cameron Wolf from NFL Network about all of that in the next segment. And so we do end up having enough time with him. Let's get our headlines today with Dan Day.
I do want to say, Josh Appel, I did the post-game show right here on 104.3 FM, WQAM. The three things every fan asked for: new GM, new coach, new quarterback. Seems like they're going to get exactly what they wish for eventually. So you can't really be too upset if you're a Dolphins fan.
No, I mean, look, it was talked about ad nauseum, right? Chris Grier had been here for 25 years in different roles, but obviously the last decade plus as general manager. 0 playoff wins. There isn't a general manager that keeps their job with that kind of result, except for, I guess, Chris Grier until this past offseason or this past regular season when he was let go. So it took a while, but Stephen Ross finally obviously made the move to reset everything.
Yeah. Headlines are brought to you by Doral Volkswagen, home of the Pricito, our lowest price. Visit us at Doral Volkswagen or DoralVolkswagen.com. Miami Hurricanes basketball team, an 8-0 run in the final minute against NC State to win the game by 177-76. They get ready for Virginia Tech at the Watsco Center tomorrow at 8.
How about Jay Lucas, the fastest first-time head coach in the ACC to reach 20 wins since 1997, 1998.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a 7-win team last year. They lost basically the entire roster.
No, they lost the
20
entire
wins
roster. As a couple months ago, they had no players on this roster. Zero.
Let's hope that Miami can keep him.
Yeah. I think that's why they went out so early to get him. That's why he left Duke early last year, because Miami made him an offer he couldn't refuse because they knew how valuable he was going to be. So good for him. Keeping it with basketball, Keyshawn Johnson won the dunk contest Saturday in Los Angeles. Damian Lillard won the three-point contest, and Team Stars defeated Team Stripes for the All-Star Championship. Norman Powell had 0 points in the first game. He had 5 points in the second game for Team World, and Anthony Edwards won MVP.
Did you guys watch any of All-Star Weekend?
A little bit.
I did.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw the clip of Anthony Edwards being asked in a press conference, are you guys going to try, or is this just kind of is what it is at this point? And when you've got a star of Anthony Edwards' caliber saying openly, it is what it is. For someone like me, I'm not tuning in. Great for Keyshawn Johnson for winning the dunk contest. Awesome that Norman Powell, after over a decade in the league, got to be an all-star and be an all-star where his career started. But, man, NBA's got a problem very similar to the NFL and their Pro Bowl weekend. There's not the same interest. There's not the same level of intensity that we used to see. And I think we've seen all the dunks.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah,
I think we've seen all the dunks. And it's not the fault of the guys who are participating. We've seen all of it.
Yeah, now that we have the internet, it's not like it was when we were younger. We only had 2 or 3 channels and you never got to see anybody hardly dunk. Now you've seen everything online. You've seen everybody do everything. Now they do it. You're like, wow, back in the day, that would have been awesome. But now it's like,
Look, for me, the dunk contest jumped the shark when Blake Griffin advertised and hyped up that he was going to jump over a car, and then he jumped over the hood of a Kia.
Yeah, the sponsor.
That was it for me.
Well, let's talk about a pure, more intense sport that we have going on right now in this world. U.S. men's hockey. They overcame an early deficit to defeat Denmark 6-3 on Saturday. Then they downed Germany 5-1 yesterday. The women's team defeated Sweden 5-0. Today, they'll play for the gold medal. They're going to face either Canada or Switzerland in the final Thursday at 1:10.
It seems like we're heading towards USA and Canada in both men's and women's. The women, USA women's team just trounced Sweden 5-0 the final in the semi there. Team USA in women's hockey has not given up a single goal in the Olympics so far.
How do you not give up a goal?
Because we're the United States of America in women's hockey. That's why.
Discipline.
We don't play around. We don't take plays off. Did you hear, though, Jeff Hafley has announced his official coaching staff, and wow, surprise, surprise, 6 of the coaches are former Packers.
Not surprising at all.
Could have been 7.
Who was the 7th?
Nathaniel Hackett.
Oh, that's right. He's the offensive coordinator for Mike LaFleur now in Arizona. Coaches like to hire who they know.
Mm-hmm.
And Packers, pretty good.
Yeah. Winningest franchise in all the NFL's history, surpassing the Cowboys recently. So, maybe. A couple ones I know you're going to like. Appel. Recently, our guy Kyle Stowers was asked about his extension talks with the Marlins. He said, look, he didn't ask for $100 million, and he did not turn down any offers, but they are continuing to work on the extension.
4 more years of control for Kyle Stowers. Would love to see him stay healthy for a full season this year, because what we saw in 70 some odd games last year was all-star level stuff. Obviously, he was an all-star. And we'll talk to Jack McMullen, Marlins radio voice, about Kyle Stowers in the 3 o'clock hour.
And one more headline, believe it or not, Inter Miami getting back in action. They're opening up the MLS season against LAFC this Saturday out in Los Angeles.
It's a big game.
Whew.
I cannot believe that season's starting again already.
Well, they're trying to accommodate for the long break they're going to take for the World Cup.
World Cup, right. But still, I mean, yeesh.
It's been, 2 months since they won the MLS Cup?
Messi playing? Am I already going to see reports about Messi taking off the opening game?
So there's two schools of thought on this. He does have a left hamstring injury, but he's going to be right around recovery time. Some people are saying, look, this is MLS's showcase. Two most valuable teams in the whole entire league. It is the opener of the whole entire season. He needs to play. There's too much on the stake. And then, of course, they've got that rescheduled game in Puerto Rico against the Ecuadorian team that is going to be on Thursday. And they're saying there's too much money in play. Messi's got to play at least some minutes in both games. That's what some people are saying. Other people are saying he's hurt and he'll only play the exhibition game. He will not play the LAFC game.
Great producing here, by the way, from Jimmy. He chimes into our personal chat, not in the YouTube chat. But we had talked about Jay Lucas during Headlines Dan Day. And Jimmy chimes in. Our good friend Jim Larinaga is the last first-year head coach to win 20 games for Miami. Back in 2011, 2012, they went 20-13 in his debut season.
And quick note of history, if Jay Lucas were to make the NCAA tournament, he would be the first coach in Miami Hurricanes history in their first year to bring the team to the big dance.
Ah, the Bants.
And that's your headlines.
Cameron Wolfe of NFL Network will join us in the next segment. We'll talk some Dolphins. We'll talk some NFL storylines as well. What do the Dolphins do now with Tua Tagovailoa? Reports are they want to trade him. Who knows if they'll have any takers on that. But the Dolphins, if you're just joining us, big news today. The Nick Westbrook, Akine, and James Daniels era both over, along with Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill. Cameron Wolfe, the NFL Network, joins us next on Hoch, Crowder, and Solana.
You're listening to the Hoch, Crowder, and Solana Show.
Rui Hachimura or Tua?
Welcome back to Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. 2 o'clock hour on President's Day. Appel, Dande, Jimmy in for Hoch, Crowder, and Solana today. Hoch and Crowder will be back tomorrow while Solana gallivants around Spain. And he really picked a great day to take his European vacation. He thinks, after the week after the Super Bowl, everything will be okay. Not so fast, because the Dolphins, it's the end of an era. Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, and a couple others released today, with more to come. And we're joined now by NFL Network's Cameron Wolf on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Shop over 2,000 Toyotas on sale at one location, Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan. You can also visit them at toyotaofhollywood.com. Cam, it's great to see you. Thank you for taking the time. Let's start with the big Dolphins news of the day. Both Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb set to be released by the Dolphins. I think these moves were expected. But let's start with Tyreek. How do you kind of reflect back on his Dolphins tenure? They gave up multiple first-round picks to get him. He had electrifying moments, was obviously a productive player when he was on the field, but seems like kind of wore out his welcome by the end. And on the whole, as we talked about in the first segment, they didn't really do any meaningful winning with him as a part of this team.
Yeah, the thrill ride you have at the roller coaster where, you wait 2 hours on the line and it's a real great peak. It may take 50 seconds at the end, but you think, man, that was a fun ride while we did it. And then you look after and you're like, man, I spent a lot of money. I spent a lot of time and all I got was a fun ride. Like, I think that's how I remember the Tyreek Hill experience. It was never boring. Plenty of excitement, plenty of yards, plenty of points. But when we look back, what ultimately did it achieve? It sold more tickets. It gave a little bit more excitement during an era, but ultimately no playoff wins. And they're going to spend much of the next year clearing themselves of the risk of going all in on a Tyreek Hill, a Tua Tagovailoa, a Jalen Ramsey amongst these guys. So now this is a new regime that says, hey, away with the glitz and glamour. We're going to have to do the hard work. We're going to cut these guys and take the money hit right now and try to rebuild it a little bit more gritty way. And so, I think it was fun. I love covering it. It meant a lot more TV attention for the Dolphins. But I think a lot of Dolphins fans are looking back and saying, man, what else did we get other than a fun little roller coaster ride for a bit?
He's one of the most dynamic players in the history of this franchise. There's not going to be any Omaha audible on this plan moving forward. This is what they're going to do. They're tearing it down to rebuild it. For Tyreek, around the league, coming off that knee injury at his age, what's the market going to be like for him? And do you still think he's capable of maybe not being the guy that pushed 2,000 yards, but, being a very good player still?
Yeah, first of all, I would never count out Tyreek Hill. You could say what you want about how he is as a leader, as a person, but as a player on the field, no one worked the way he did. And even at 32, I believe that if he can come back from this and be an impact player, he will, because he's that motivated of a player. That being said, I heard early on through the process, that's a very serious injury, and that the optimism for the start of 2026 was just that optimism that may have been a little bit extreme. I think that right now the goal for Tyreek Hill is to get back healthy and play at some point in 2026. I don't think week one should be anybody's reasonable imagination. And so I'd imagine that you're looking at a market for a player who has to prove he's healthy. You may even look at a situation where he may not get signed until into the season when he can actually pass a physical and show he can be full speed. So, maybe for him, a contender this year where he doesn't get as much money, but can get an opportunity. And then maybe if he's healthier and fully go in 2027, he can maybe get a last ditch effort. But he's 32 years old. He's a speed receiver. And coming off a multiple ligament knee injury, you got to wonder how much of this recovery will zap who he is as a player.
So we'd kind of have to wait to see, like, is it too early to have the
where's I don't imagine any February
Yeah.
signing. I don't think he can be eligible to be signed today. So the Chiefs or whoever could say, hey, we're going to sign Tyreek and we're going to bet on the recovery. I don't anticipate any of that. I think at the very earliest, it would be sometime in August and probably most likely closer to the season.
It is that you brought up the Chiefs. Is that where you see this ending up? Where do you see the best fit for him moving forward?
I think you're going to look at some teams at the top, like we're talking about. I mentioned the Chiefs just because of the familiarity. Obviously, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes know him. But I think you're looking at one of those top 3 or 4 teams, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Broncos, those teams that are competing in the AFC or even in the NFC on the same thing, a team that may give them a 1-year deal with some incentives, but maybe not a lot of guaranteed money just to prove that he's healthy. So I think he may go ring chasing a little bit, but I think it's too early to say, hey, this team's the front runner. Because he's not even healthy enough. The
Right.
Chiefs could bring him in the facility and say, hey, this guy can't help us right now. And that they could be out. So I don't know that to say that, but it's the obvious early connection because we've seen his flirtation with them throughout the process and that of him being in Miami and it's still Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid there.
Kind of want to see him with Josh Allen and the Bills if he's turns out to be healthy. That would be very intriguing
crazy,
and very
right?
be more salt in the wound for this Dolphins fan base. The other big move today, obviously, Bradley Chubb, another productive player in his time with the Dolphins, another all-in move that the team made a couple of years ago to bring him in, another guy they gave up a first-round pick for. When he was healthy, like I said, he produced, but he missed that full season. 2024 was probably one of their better defenders, maybe their best defensive player this past season. How do you reflect back on his tenure with Miami? And same question, where do you see kind of the fits for Bradley Chubb?
Yeah, Bradley Chubb, consummate professional. Like you mentioned, health was the big thing for him. Didn't stay healthy enough. Really, it's the testament of his whole career. But when he was on the field, one of their better players, I think we always were left wanting a little bit more, given they gave up a first-round pick, given that he had got the big contract. There was thought of he could be the final piece, and he was just one of the pieces in a solid defense, right? And so I think, the expectations of money often create maybe a disappointment in the era when I don't think that he was a bad player. I think he was actually a pretty good player.
Yeah.
He just didn't maybe live up to everything the Dolphins gave him, which is not his fault. He didn't give himself the contract. He didn't give up the first round pick to get him. But yes, I think, there will be some questions as we look back at this tenure of maybe why didn't the Dolphins trade him at the deadline? The offers weren't that great from what I understand, less than what they would have got.
Better than just cutting him.
That part. They were not the level of Jalen Phillips. Like Jalen Phillips, you got a third for. My understanding is it might have been a mid-day 3 pick, 5th or 6th round pick. But like you're saying, now you're looking back on it, you say, I still would have liked to have that 5th or 6th round pick. I think at that time the team was not trying to give up on the season. They were still having the idea of, hey, we're going to fight for Mike, see how this going. And I think they felt like trading Bradley Chubb for a 5th or 6th round pick would be a give up the season move without a lot of return. We could argue on whether that was the right call, but I understood it at the time. Now, obviously, you're looking back and you're like, that was for nothing. But I think ultimately Bradley Chubb will still have a career. It makes sense if he would end up somewhere like Philadelphia where Vic Fangio is. He had some success there. Maybe go back to Denver, another team that needs maybe a third pass rusher. He's towards the end of his career, but I think he still has a couple years left. He's just not on the Dolphins timeline. This is going to be a very young team in 2026. I'd anticipate maybe another cut or two coming up, and I think you're going to get a team that's taking a lot of low risk, high reward free agency signings rather than the big splashes we've seen here in recent years.
So Cameron Wolf, as you say, the fun ride is over. What can Dolphins fans expect this coming season? Is it going to be another year of now we have to wait and see, would we have to rebuild, or is it a year we can expect some success?
Yeah, I'd say it's a reset year. I think that you should probably temper your expectations, to be honest. I'm going to keep it real with you. That's the only thing I know how to do. And so I'm not going to tell you, get ready for your Super Bowl ticket parade. You never know. I mean, first year regime in Jacksonville, they didn't expect to go from being a 4-13 team to a 3-14 team. Same with the New England Patriots. They didn't expect from going, the bottom of the AFC East to the top. And so sometimes it clicks a lot earlier than expected. That being said, they don't have the young quarterback in Drake May ready to make an MVP leap. They don't have the quarterback in Trevor Lawrence that they're going to fix and make him an MVP candidate. And so I'd anticipate this maybe takes a couple of years. And so, I don't know if they're the bottom of the NFL, but I do think they'll go younger. And because of that, it may be an uphill climb for them to be a playoff team in 26, just at this early stage of what I see.
You brought up the quarterback position.
Yep.
And the writing seems to be on the wall for what the Dolphins are going to do with Tua Tagovailoa. Sully and Jeff Halfley have both kind of taken the political answer,
Yep.
say something while saying nothing when they're both asked about it publicly. I can't imagine there's any team that, even if the Dolphins, relieve some of that money, are going to want to trade for that contract, considering the Dolphins, worst case, if they can't trade him, are going to end up releasing him, and a team can sign him for much less than they'd have to pay if they were going to trade for him. The release of Tua Tagovailoa seems like it's going to be the most likely end to this saga, no?
I think that's the route they're trying to avoid. But, look, I can only compare it to this. I'm a baseball fan, the Philadelphia Phillies fan. Nick Castellanos is a similar situation here where you've got this sunken money, $20 million, and you're just like, man, can a team just take 5 of this for us, And you spend all off season until you get to the spring training, which in this scenario is going to be the start of the league year, the start of free agency in about a month. And I think they'll probably try to take it as close to that deadline. But to me, that's the deadline. I don't think they continue this into the new year, continue this into free agency. So right now they're making their calls. If we do this, if we give a pick here, could you eat this? Could you figure this out? They're making all those exploratory calls. I don't know if they find a team. The one thing I'll say different than Castellanos for here, every team needs a quarterback. Not every team needs a bad defending right fielder. I think that even in Tua's depleted value and the concerns of his injuries, he probably could compete for a starting job in multiple other places. You're probably paying that for the value of Tua, maybe Daniel Jones money, what he made last year, which was like a 1-year, $14 million deal. Now, teams expect you to release them. They'll just go ahead and wait. But if you think you can get ahead of the line and maybe say, hey, we can get them for 1 for 8, 1 for 10, Dolphins eat the rest of it, then maybe you find a team that'll do it and just dump the 8 or 10 million. I think that's what the Dolphins are probably at this stage. You just got to find that team. And if you don't, then yeah, I'd anticipate, whether post June 1 or regular, then that would be the next route release. I just don't see a route where they continue on with Tua in 2026 at this stage.
So with that being said, I know a lot of talk has been around Malik Willis and the potential, because of the ties to the Packer staff that's here. Kyler Murray is a very similar situation in Arizona to what the Dolphins are trying to decide here with Tua Tagovailoa. Maybe Mac Jones in a trade, a guy like that. Or do they draft a guy? What do you envision the Dolphins' plan being at quarterback post Tua Tagovailoa?
Yeah, I think they would love to get a Malik Willis. I think the familiarity makes a lot of sense. The problem's going to be the cost. It sounds like Malik's going to make some money. And we just talked about all of the costs that the Dolphins are eating this year. This is all going on their cap, dead cap money for Tyreek, for Bradley Chubb. I mean, you're talking about releasing Tua. If you do it pre-June 1, that's almost $100 million in dead cap. That leaves you very lean to spend in 2026. So, even if they do like him, he may be priced out market-wise. They may have to really be forced to go young, reset, sell opportunity more than money to some of these young players and some of these guys looking to hit big and see if they bite. So maybe the familiarity convinces Malik, if his market isn't as booming, to say, hey, I'll take a little less. But I don't anticipate Miami paying $25-30 million, which could be Malik Willis's market a year for that player. So we're going to see. The one thing I would say, and this is just my personal feeling, not any reporting at all. At some point, you got to decide if you're going to just eat it in 2026, which seems like the route. Like, we're just going to eat all the money. We're going to get rid of the players. We're going to just deal with it. I don't know that I wouldn't just say keep Tua. If you got to find a veteran anyway to get through the year while you try to find the young guy, that would be my opinion. Now, from everything I've heard, they're trying to move on from him. But at some point, you got to wonder if we're just going the route of finding a stopgap, which is what I'd expect them at this point in free agency, finding somebody, Malik or somewhere else, then why wouldn't you just keep that guy? But it's a new regime. They got new ideas. They got different ways to go about it, and we'll kind of see. But I don't know that I put all my eggs in the Malik Willis basket just because of the price. I think they may have to go in a lower tier, price tier.
I know that Malik Willis impressed in starting for Jordan Love the last couple of years, but $25-30 million for Malik Willis seems insane.
It does seem like, for a guy that was traded for a 7th round pick from Tennessee like 2 years ago. again, his market could be inflated right now in the February time of we're just speculating, but it's a bad free agency class, Josh. Like, this is one of the worst that I've seen talking to folks in years. And free agency is always the place to overpay. You start looking at all these teams that may potentially need quarterbacks. You start with the Jets, not including the Raiders because they're probably going with Mendoza, but you got the Jets. You've got the Giants, not the Giants, the Jets. You've got the Cardinals, who are going to get rid of Kyler Murray at some point. Early in the season, Atlanta may need a quarterback because Michael Penix may not be ready.
Is Will Levis a guy that could be available in a trade?
Will Levis could be available. They've obviously moved forward with Cam Ward, and I think they'd like to get a veteran in that room with him as a backup. So, yes, Will Levis could be available. I think you're going to have probably 5 or 6 teams. Minnesota is going to need somebody. They're going to bring in a legit dude to compete with J.J. McCarthy because that is not his job securely. So there's like 4, 5, 6 of these teams where they may say, hey, we'll pay Malik Willis, a 2 years, $50 million. And maybe the first year is only guaranteed. Maybe he's only getting 25 or 30 guaranteed. But we've got to pay him that to get him in the market and see, can he beat out a J.J. McCarthy? Can he win the job in New York? Can he, keep us afloat in Atlanta the first month and a half of the season, and then we trade him. I think there's a lot that's going on there that could help his market be higher than most of us anticipate.
I want to get to some broad NFL stories now with Cameron Wolf of NFL Network. You reported last week that the Jaguars were going to start using Travis Hunter primarily as a cornerback. What went into that decision for them? I know now that they're pretty solid at receiver with the moves they made at the deadline, bringing in Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington really emerged there, but they gave up a lot of draft capital to get Travis Hunter, and cornerback's a very important position. But to seemingly abandon the wide receiver project with him after this injury, what do you make of that situation and what went into this decision?
Yeah, so first of all, I wouldn't use the word abandon. I don't think they're going to abandon the Travis Hunter offensive experiment. But what I do think is they reevaluated their roster. And look, the blessing of Travis Hunter always in their mind was that because he's so good at both, you can adjust him based off of game or need. And what happened that was a little bit of a surprise for them is Jacoby Myers, who they acquired at the deadline, ended up being incredible. Ended up being Trevor Lawrence's best receiver, most reliable guy. They ended up giving him an extension, $20 million a year. And then Parker Washington, who was regularly like a returner, kind of fifth receiver, emerged and had a breakout season as really a guy you couldn't take off the field. You still got Brian Thomas, who had a down year, but they're expecting him back in 2026. You start to run out of spots. And then you look on the other side of the ball, and they got their two starting cornerbacks last year are free agents. And Greg Newsome, who had some struggles, and Monteric Brown. And they say, hey, Travis Hunter can be cornerback 1 immediately over here. Wide receiver, just call it what it is. He might be wide receiver 4 right now as far as readiness. And obviously the upside's there, but I think some of this is roster construction. The second part of it is he was already expected to get more on defense. I reported sometimes in October, and it went kind of under the radar because he was still playing, that their plan in 2026 was to give him this cornerback job full time. They just didn't think year 1 it was time for him to be a full-time player on that side of the ball. They thought he could handle it. Now it gets kind of thrown a little bit more on his table because he's coming off the injury. I think you'll still see Travis Hunter play 40 to 50% as their ideal window on offense. You'll see him kind of come in, maybe get 20, 30 snaps a game, still be a deep threat, still take pressure off other players. It's going to hurt his fantasy football value. I got a lot of anger from fantasy football fans of why would you screw over my dynasty pick? I didn't have anything to do with you. I'm just telling you what they're going to do. But I think that they think he can still be super impactful. And one thing I heard from people in Jacksonville, which you could take it for what it's worth, they think he can be a Jalen Ramsey type impact player as a cornerback. They think that he can be like whatever you think of Jalen Ramsey's time in Miami, potential Hall of Famer as a cornerback and get a little extra at receiver. And so for them, they still think that's worth it, even though we have a view of cornerback as not as valuable as quarterback, receiver, offensive line, pass rusher.
Cameron Wolf, NFL Network. Great stuff as always, Cam. Appreciate your time. And thanks for all the insight as always.
Appreciate you, fellas.
Back with more Hochman, Crowder, and Solana after this.
This is Hoch, Crowder, and Solana.
You have Tua. You can make Tua Tartar.
Change
We back at it with this daddy, Hotman, Crowder, and Solana. 305, cafecito time, dame una colada. Got some interviews next, always got dope guests. Get the cesspool live, dropping comments and likes. We about to get right, talking sports, my G. Listen to Odyssey and 104.3. Live and back on GeorgiaMusic.com. Hitting it at the park like the Mad Murders bomb off power. Get ready for the 3 o'clock hour. Get ready for the 3 o'clock hour. Get ready for the 3 o'clock hour. Get ready for that 3 o'clock. Ready for that 3 o'clock. Are you ready for the 3 o'clock? Are you ready for that 3 o'clock?
Thank you to Georgie Music as always. I wish I had half the creativity that this man has in one pinky finger. He is excellent.
So good.
Jimmy, you think you can make a song that good?
No way.
Not with that attitude.
I'm not saying with attitude. It's just I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't know where to start.
I think you could do it. By the end of the show, Jimmy, here, how about this? Call Georgie and see if he'll collaborate with you. Appel in for Hoch, Crowder, and Solana, along with Dan Day and Jimmy, taking you up until 6 o'clock. Thanks to Cameron Wolf of NFL Network for joining us in the last hour. Jack McMullen, the radio voice of the Marlins, will join us in the next segment, talk some spring training. Gentlemen, it's President's Day. It's National Almond Day. And unfortunately, Robert Duvall also passed away today. Jimmy, you liked him in Kicking and Screaming, right?
Godfather.
Well, come on. I mean, Kicking and Screaming is a better movie than Godfather.
Nah, I disagree.
I'm Buck Weston, and we've got balls.
Well, to be honest, I've never seen the movie.
What?
I've seen The Godfather, not the other movie you mentioned.
Crazy that you've never seen Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell. Mike Ditka's in it. Pass to the Italians, Jimmy?
Maybe I've seen a little bit of it, but I didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it. Just say
No,
you
I
haven't
haven't
seen
seen
it.
it. I
No, I haven't
haven't
seen
seen
a
it.
little bit of it. Oh.
The Pele Ball. Dan, you know what I'm talking about. Kicking
Yeah,
and
of course.
Screaming? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Great movie. In fact, I think this needs to be turned into a Mount Rushmore of sports movies on President's Day. And I'm going to give you my Mount Rushmore of sports movies right now, off the cuff. You ready?
Let's go.
Kicking and Screaming.
All right, number 1.
Bench Warmers.
Number 2.
Talladega Nights.
Ooh, Shake and Bake. Number 3.
And Happy Gilmore 2.
Ooh, Eminem. Number 4. Seen them all, though. I hate to say that.
Kicking and Screaming. Bench Warmers. Talladega Nights. And Happy Gilmore 2. The definitive Mount Rushmore of sports movies on this President's Day.
No honorable mention with Necessary Roughness. Scott Bakula.
If we were adding a fifth head to Mount Rushmore, The Replacements.
Okay.
That's a good movie.
Thank you. Somebody in the chat chimed in with Blades of Glory, which in the Winter Olympics time that we're in right now, always a fun one to go back and watch. John Heder and Will Ferrell.
That's a guy.
Never seen that one either.
You've never seen Blades of Glory, Jimmy?
Oh my goodness, Jimmy.
No.
Oh my God. That's worse than me not having seen it wasn't The Godfather. What movie did I not see that they got really mad at me about? Oh my God. Not The Godfather. I've seen all 3 Godfathers. It wasn't Casino. I've never seen
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas. There you go.
Come on.
I've seen Goodfellas because the show shamed me into it.
Oh, okay.
But Jimmy not having seen these movies is worse than me not having seen Goodfellas.
I would think just sitting around the house sometimes Blades of Glory would come on and you'd happen upon it or something. No?
TNT, TBS,
Netflix,
AMC,
Hulu, ABC, NBC.
Jimmy, you put your finger up if you're going to say something.
No, I know, but I had a thought, but I was like, I forgot.
Good. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay.
So rest in peace, Robert Duvall. All that to say, rest in peace, Robert Duvall. Great in The Godfather, but better in Kicking and Screaming.
Yeah, true. There's a couple definitive roles in your life, and definitely he could rest assured today when he finally laid down that Kicking and Screaming was on his legacy reel.
I hope it was buried with the Pele ball.
Maybe not.
Wow. Huh.
One of the movies on my Mount Rushmore is Remembering the Titans. That's a great one.
Well, how could you have a movie on your Mount Rushmore and butcher the first word of the title of the movie?
Remember the Titans. Sorry.
Jimmy, you know what show you're working on here.
Yeah, I know.
I love Remembering the Titans.
Well, it's almost as good as Remember the Titans.
Do you only have one movie on your sports Mount Rushmore, Jimmy? Sports movie Mount Rushmore, sorry.
I like the D2 Mighty Ducks.
Okay.
That fits.
Rookie of the Year.
Kevin Costner? Dennis Quaid?
No, Rookie of the Year with the kid.
Oh,
becomes
Henry
pitcher of
Rowan-Gardner. Henry
Yes.
Rowan-Gardner. Yeah, what am I? I'm thinking of The Rookie.
Was that the Chicago Cubs where his
Yes.
arm? Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, it becomes too.
Wow,
his
man.
tendons become too tight.
Yeah, okay.
And another one I had in my head too. I had it in my head, but I'm having a brain fart.
So Jimmy has 3/4 of a sports movie Mount Rushmore. Dan?
Well, I told you, Kicking and Screaming, of course.
Oh,
Robert Duvall, R.I.P., R.I.P. Unnecessary Roughness with Scott Bakula. Definitely one right there. Does Running Man count with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Because they were like in a game type situation and there's a lot of running and stuff like that.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Jimmy, what do you think?
The world's most dangerous game, kind of.
What movie did you say?
Running Man, the original.
No, never seen Running Man.
Richard Dawson?
Cool Runnings? Is Cool Runnings on your Mount Rushmore of sports movies?
It isn't, but I do like the movie.
Great movie. I was telling my wife about it earlier today because we were watching the monobob at the Olympics, and the Jamaican monobobber was doing her run, and I was telling Mara about Cool Runnings. She'd never seen it. I know Cool Runnings as a movie that, like, whenever I had a substitute in school growing up, that was a movie they threw on the TV. Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Come on, Jamaica. It's bobsled time.
It's time. Cool Runnings. And they did run.
What a film.
Inspirational.
All right, so Dan, you're at 2 still.
Oh, I'm still at 2.
Yeah, maybe 3. Who's listening to this show?
Running Man, you know.
Okay, we'll count it for you.
Most people accept it. And then I'll go Cool Runnings because I like the Jamaican music and I like the inspiration at the end where I almost cried.
I'm a big crier at movies. I remember crying at Cool Runnings too.
No shame. There's no shame in crying.
None.
As long
none
as it's
at all.
reasonably, reasonable.
Like somebody in the chat. Sorry to cut you off. Somebody in the
if your
chat
wife's leaving town.
With Little Big League, also a great movie.
Sandlot.
That's the movie. Sandlot. That's the one.
You forgot Sandlot, Jimmy?
I know.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Good one.
Benny the Jet. Made it to the major leagues. What a story. Stole home.
Man,
that was great.
The Dodger.
He was a Dodger. That's right.
I saw that in the movie theaters. I want to say that's man.
I found out that the guy that plays grown up Benny is Benny's brother in real life.
What? The guy that plays grown up Benny.
It's just his older brother.
It's just his older brother.
Yeah, that plays grown up Benny.
So the actor of young Benny's older brother plays
yeah, the older brother.
That is a factoid that really just it resonates. It resonates.
Yeah, Hoch and Crowder are back tomorrow, by the way. Oh gosh. So those were, I think, 3 of the best Mount Rushmores given in the history of this show.
Yeah, pretty strong. There's some other great ones out there, though. What about, Tropic Thunder? Oh, no, what is the one with the Flint Tropics with Will
Oh,
Ferrell?
Semi-Pro.
Semi-Pro. Oh, love Woody
Excellent
Harrelson.
movie. Spumoni.
I like the guy that wants Woody Harrelson to hook up with his wife and watch. Oh man, what a cuckold.
They traded they traded for him for a washing machine.
Oh man,
What a
Flint
film.
Tropics. Oh man,
So
kind of reminds me of the All-Star game last night.
yeah, like I really wanted to give the All-Star game a go. I really did. But for me, the highlight was John Tesh playing the NBA on NBC theme song live. And I'm fascinated by the way John Tesh mimics dribbling a basketball. I'm not certain John Tesh knows how to dribble a basketball. He's just like slapping his hip. You don't dribble slapping your hip. And unfortunately for him, it's an iconic song, obviously. But I only ever hear it now with the Tim Robinson lyrics from SNL.
Oh,
I hear that too. I hear
Sing it, Jimmy.
I know I can't sing it. Dribble the basketball because I want to dunk it.
No, that's not those aren't the lyrics to it.
I
Those
know.
aren't the
I
lyrics,
said
Jimmy.
I said I didn't know. I didn't really know. I just made it. I just guessed.
Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it. Those are lyrics. And that's all I hear when I hear the John Tesh song. What a great segment on the day that Tyreek Hill is released by the Dolphins, right, Dan Day?
The first hour was about Tyreek Hill and the fun ride that we have and what's his legacy going to be. So, we got to lighten the mood. We've lost one of our all-time favorite players.
Radio Gold.
Rolled.
Mm.
And we'll make it even better with Marlins baseball in the next segment.
Oh, very excited. Now, let's not throw shade at James Daniels and his 3 plays, his illustrious career with the Miami Dolphins, and then Nick Westbrook-Akine, his 11 receptions. We lost a lot of production today, and then Bradley Chubb.
Is that not a microcosm for the type of player that Chris Greer brought in to Miami in his tenure, James Daniels, a guy who has a pedigree of being a solid player, but has the injury question? Mm-hmm. Like, how many guys did Chris Greer take a flyer on where we had said at the end of a season, man, or at the beginning of a season, man, if they can stay healthy, there were so many guys brought in that fit that, and none of them ever stayed healthy. Except for Tua in 2023. He somehow, in a season where every single person it felt like on that roster got hurt by the end, to the point where they were their pass rushers in Kansas City were Bruce Irvin and Justin Houston. Bruce Irvin, I think, was in the locker room, or was it one of the two was in the Chiefs locker room after that game, after they lost. It's amazing that Tua stayed healthy in that 2023 season, given everybody else, it felt like, seemingly had gotten hurt. So we turn the page on the previous Dolphins era. One more glaring piece of it still to be figured out what to do with, and that's Tua Tagovailoa. And we'll talk about that later on in the show, but we've got to get to our headlines here in the 3 o'clock hour with Dan Day, because we've got the Marlins radio voice, Jack McMullen, joining us in the next segment. So, Dan, let's get our 3 o'clock headlines.
USA hockey doing pretty good over there in Milan. The men's team, they defeated Denmark 6-3 Saturday, then took care of Germany 5-1. The women's team earlier today blanked Sweden 5-0. The women will play for the gold medal. They face either Canada or Switzerland in the final Thursday at 1:10.
We'll talk to George Richards about Team USA hockey later on in the show. I'm skeptical, based on what I've seen from Team USA, that they'll be able to beat Canada if and when they meet up.
We'll see, though. Miracle on Ice. That's another great sports movie.
Miracle, of course.
Do you believe miracles? Yes.
Yes.
Do you think
yes.
tired of being asked about that?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's legendary, but
I mean, I know, but it's like, how many different versions of that question can he get? Because he still gets it. And I imagine that Al Michaels, who seems a little bit prickly,
Yeah, he is.
is tired of getting that question.
Maybe that's why he's so prickly lately. Just the years have worn him down. What was that? It's 46 years.
Oh my God.
Imagine getting asked the same question everywhere you go, 46 years. And everyone that asked it thinks they're so inventive too. That's probably what makes me more mad. Like, I get the question, but the people that are like, haha, guess what I asked them?
You know the quote from Herb Brooks in the movie where he asks, or he says, the so-and-so is a heck of a long way from the heart. My friends and I use that line all the time about any injury. And the guy's got a knee injury. The knee's a hell of a long way from the heart. He's got a rib injury. The rib is a hell of a long way from the heart. Even if it is literally right next to the heart, we will use that line. Even if the rib's sole purpose in existing is to protect the heart, it's a hell of a long way from the heart.
Metaphorical. That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Heat's forward, Norman Powell, he scored a couple points, 5 to be exact, in his 2 All-Star games yesterday. He recently said he wants to be with the Heat long term. The 32-year-old forward is in a contract year and could max out at 4 years, $128 million.
Would you give him that?
Man, I thought about it. You can only really keep either he or Tyler Hero, and I'm keep weighing the options. And I would give Norman Powell the money. I'm just scared about the injuries.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because we know that Tyler Hero is a good player.
Mm-hmm. And their numbers are almost exactly the same, by the way. And Tyler's younger.
But one guy plays a lot more than the other guy. Tyler Hero has not been available for the majority of this season. I don't know that Powell in general is a max contract guy, but if you're just giving me the hypothetical of they're going to give out the max, this extension, and it's going to either be to Norman Powell, Stormin Norman, or Tyler Hero. Or maybe you just move on from both and don't give either the max.
Do like Jeff Hafley and those guys. Look, reset.
TYFYS, thank you for your service, but we'll see you later.
Canes baseball team start off the season hotter than a fox in a forest fire. They swept Lehigh. Yesterday, they won 27-3 in 6 1/3 innings. They called the game. They now play UCF tomorrow at 6.
A fox in a forest fire, huh?
Never heard that?
Never.
How about hotter than a $2 pistol?
I think I've heard that before.
I mean, I get what it means, but the poor fox.
I know, that's so dark, dude.
You can get out of it. I'm not saying the fox isn't laying down. I'm saying, it's just hot. It's just hot, man. Yeah, we are talking baseball. Kyle Stowers, he's our all-star from last season for the Marlins. They were talking an extension. There's been some rumors that he wanted $100 million. There's rumors that he's turned down extensions. Kyle Stowers says neither of those are true. They're just continuing to work on that extension.
We'll talk to Jack McMullen in the next segment about Marlins baseball, including Kyle Stowers.
And you also have our Miami Hurricanes basketball team that are, let's just say, hot right now as they defeated UNC last week and NC State this past weekend. They move into 4th place in the ACC, and they take on Virginia Tech tomorrow at 8.
Big year so far for Jay Lucas in his first season at Miami.
And headlines are sponsored by Doral Volkswagen, home of the Pricito, our lowest price. Visit us at Doral Volkswagen or at DoralVolkswagen.com.
Jack McMullen, the radio voice of the Marlins, will join us next on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana.
You're listening to the Hoch, Crowder, and Solana Show.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Buenos días.
The Daily
Welcome back to Hochman, Crowder, and Solana on this President's Day. Appel, Dan Day, and Jimmy in for Hawk, Crowder, and Solana. Hawk and Crowder should be back tomorrow. Solana just was on his Instagram. He's doing a tapas tour in Spain. What a day to do that. A day that Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb gets released.
Tapas?
You a tapas guy, Dan?
Oh, yeah, man. Small plates. Look at me. I'm skinny as you know what, man. That's like a full meal for me.
No, I'm a big plate guy. Get out of here with tapas.
Tapas are delicious.
I did do, my wife and I did do omakase for Valentine's Day, which was fantastic. You know, as we've talked about on the show before, I have the palate of a 6-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I've graduated to doing an omakase experience, and that is a huge step in my life.
I actually literally in the break, now that kind of apropos of nothing, I just made a reservation 3 weeks from now to Carbone in South Beach.
I love Carbone. Okay,
never been.
I will say before we get to Jack McMullen, he's waiting here to get to in a moment. Carbone for me is a place that you do once to get the experience, and then the Italian food near where you live is just as good. Okay.
Oh, I still got a good thing.
Listen, the penne alla vodka I make at home is good enough.
I'll find out on March 8th.
I also don't make it. My wife makes it. All right. Jack McMullen, the radio voice of the Marlins, joins us now on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Shop over 2,000 Toyotas on sale at one location, Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan, toyotaofhollywood.com. You can also hear Jack on the excellent Just Baseball podcast, and I brought this up to Jack before. One of his co-hosts and I share the same spelling of our last name,
yes,
but his co-host Peter pronounces it wildly incorrect, Apple instead of Appel. And so just tell Peter next time he needs to correct it.
I will certainly tell him. Now, quick follow-up on what you guys were talking about before I hopped on with you. When you say palate of a 6-year-old, are you a chicken tenders and milk guy? Like, what's the deal there?
Well, first off, that's an insane combination, chicken tenders and milk. But, I mean, who doesn't love a good plate of chicken tenders and fries? I mean, that is delightful. I mean, the other night, my wife and I, it was a long day with the baby. You know what we're going to have? A delightful bowl of penne with butter.
So you are a buttered noodles kid. That's great.
I love buttered noodles. Who doesn't? Who
Good
doesn't?
for you, man. Wow.
Thank you. But get Peter. Tell Peter to fix it.
I will tell him. Yeah, no, I'll let him know that Josh Apple wants Peter Appel to go.
All right, Jack, thanks so much for joining us. It was great having you. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, perfect.
This has actually been a long time coming. I've been trying to book Jack on this show for a long time, and for many reasons, he wasn't able to, but we finally were able to make this happen. Jack, thanks for taking the time. First things first, full squad in attendance today, officially, spring training in Jupiter at the newly renovated complex at Roger Dean. And if you're on social media, you've probably seen some of the videos of the renovated complex. But Jack, for someone who's been there the last week or so, explain to the listeners just the first phase of this renovation, just how nice and what a big upgrade it is from what was there before.
Yeah, I mean, it's phase one because phase two is going to be when spring training games actually begin. And the Marlins open spring training this coming Saturday in Port St. Lucie. But after that is their first game at Roger Dean in Jupiter. But phase one is absolutely beautiful. And there are different things there that jump out that just kind of strike you. And if you've ever been to the Marlins complex at Roger Dean, you know it's beautiful and it's paradise and it's Jupiter, Florida, and you get baseball and it's the start of the season. It signals so many different things. But what they have now is this, living wall with so much greenery that greets you instead of just a black brick wall. You've got state-of-the-art equipment in the batting cage and on the pitcher's mound. They have, a brand new weight room. They have a turf athletic field for them. When you think, okay, let's put the players in the best possible position to get as good as possible, the Marlins checked literally every single one of those boxes this offseason. And it really is state of the art. And I think spring training is important. And a lot of people would, I guess, turn a blind eye to spring training complexes. You think, if you're going to, pour a lot of money into infrastructure, you should just do it at your home ballpark. you only really spend 80 days at your home ballpark. You play 82 home games there, but everybody that's rehabbing on your team, they go to the spring training complex, right? You've got the entire organization there for a month and a half, so you know that at the outset, but all your minor leaguers that you're prioritizing, they're at the spring training complex too. So really cool to see all of that kind of come to fruition.
One of the new changes this year, Jack, in Major League Baseball, they tested it out in spring training last year. Obviously, minor league baseball had to use this for a little bit, but the ABS challenge system is coming to the regular season in Major League Baseball. What's the vibe you've gotten from guys on the Marlins, whether it's players, whether it's staff, about how you think they're going to utilize it? I saw Chris Sale say a couple of days ago that he's not even going to bother one way or the other, that he's just not even going to remotely even try to challenge a pitch, whether it's for his benefit or not. What's the vibe you've gotten from Marlins folks?
So on the Sale point, I will be watching his first start with pins and needles, because I know when that guy has the adrenaline and the emotion going, he's going to say, "What are you talking about?" And he's going to tap the top of his hat and he's going to challenge. So I have minimal doubt that he's going to do that. As a gritty, seasoned veteran of AAA baseball with the ABS challenge system, I spent 3 years in Indianapolis. I will tell you that I love it. And I think that this is a phenomenal addition to Major League Baseball. It is, I think my favorite thing is it's an immediate ego check for anybody that thinks that they are bigger than balls and strikes. It's like, oh no, come on. Like I'm a true vet. I've got 10 years of Major League service here. No way that was a strike. And then, you look at the big board, and it's very similar to the tennis challenge system. It's the same exact technology. It looks the same. So that immediate ego check is very fun. Also a cool diffusal tactic with the umpires. You're really not going to get into that shouting match about consistent balls and strikes, because hey, if you think they're wrong, just tap the top of your helmet or hat and things can get taken care of right away. They went through some trials and tribulations in the minor leagues where they were trying 3 challenges per game, and then they were trying umpires just wearing an earpiece and a Siri type voice would tell them ball or strike, and they're just the messenger. There are 2 available challenges per team, per game, 2 available challenges to lose. So if you win the challenge, if you overturn a call, you get to keep that challenge. But if you lose one, all of a sudden you only have 1 left for the rest of the game. So I feel like there is an element of strategy in that. And I think it's really only going to take a week for baseball fans to fall in love with it. It's very pitch clocky to me.
And the pitch clock, we know, was a heck of a introduction to Major League Baseball, because the game, I know some people don't like how fast it goes, but it keeps everybody on their toes. Everybody likes it. At least I do.
You love the 4-hour game, right?
Oh, listen, 4 years as a PA announcer there. I think the last season was the first year with the pitch clock. Those first 3 seasons, we're like a 3-hour mark, and it's the bottom of the 6th inning. Let's get a move on here. Anyways, Jack, what's Clayton McCullough like? What are a couple of his traits that made it possible for him and this team to have the season they had last year? They overachieved by pretty much any metric last year, and who knows, maybe there are some second guessing on certain decisions maybe that he made for himself that he learned from, that maybe they could have been in contention longer. But generally speaking, what makes Clayton McCullough a manager capable of leading a team that overachieves the way they did last year?
He is relentlessly positive. He's receptive to everything that the front office or certain players will throw his way. He's a really good communicator. He checks every box that I think they were looking for in their manager search going into last season. And he's a guy that, won't necessarily lead with fear and try and strike fear into his players like, a prime Saban would or anything like that. Didn't Saban write a book like It's Better to Be Feared? I think that was the title.
It's enough of Nick Saban. Let's be honest.
Yeah, sorry about that. But Clayton McCullough is one of those guys that kind of leads day in and day out with this constant positivity, and what Clayton you are getting every single day. And he's willing to push the envelope. He's willing to try new training tactics with his guys. He's willing to, try new schedules over the course of the day. Like, this is a guy that has his finger on the pulse of that clubhouse in an exceptional way. And he's also just easy to talk to. If you ever have a problem with something that's happening, he is a phenomenal conduit from the roster to anybody else. And I think he's very, open and honest with the media as well as to what's going on in that clubhouse. And I'm just a big fan of the guy. And I feel like that's kind of step one when you talk about baseball managers. You have to like the guy because you're around him literally every day for hours on end for 7.5 months a year. So that box is checked.
I thought it said a lot about Clayton as a major league coach when the Dodgers and when the Marlins played the Dodgers last year, and seeing the reaction and the reunion that Clayton had with a good bit of that roster, and guys like Mookie Betts and how they talked so highly of him speaks a lot about the type of guy and type of coach manager that Clayton McCullough is. He was a coach for the Dodgers, manager for the Marlins. Now I just want to make sure that we're clear. I understand coach, manager. All right. Anyways, how would you evaluate this Marlins offseason here? Peter Fairbanks, the marquee acquisition, I guess you would say, but they've also kind of revamped that back half of the rotation. Ryan Weathers gone, Edward Cabrera gone. A lot of question marks and maybe the 4-5 spots. I know Chris Paddock was also signed. His numbers haven't been great the last couple of years. You know you have sure things, hopefully, in Sandy and Yuri, but after that, question marks with Braxton Garrett and just kind of how that rotation fills out. So overall, how would you kind of evaluate the Marlins offseason?
Yeah, so number one, the Marlins are kind of turning into a pitching lab. They have a lot of guys come in and immediately improve certain aspects of their arsenal. Like, I think the best breakout example last year was Jansen Junk. If you didn't watch much, this
Great
was
mustache.
a guy that was one of the best names in baseball, without a doubt. But this was a guy that was a minor league free agent signing that leaned into the pitch design sessions, which are kind of the more hands-on bullpen sessions that the Marlins are doing. And his four-seam fastball got better. His sweeper got better. His changeup got better. Everything got better. The location was really good. And this guy was one of the more reliable arms that the Marlins had in 2025. And he's going into 26, I think, is a favorite to win one of those rotation spots. So they do a really good job of developing pitchers and getting more out of them. So that is intriguing to a guy like Chris Paddock, who had a good changeup last year, has been in the big leagues, has experienced success in the big leagues, but allowed north of 30 homers last year and had a fastball problem. Why can't he come to Miami, Daniel Moskis, the pitching coach, or somebody else in the pitching department say, hey, we noticed this is wrong with your fastball. Let's try and tweak this and get it back to being, a pretty good big league fastball, and it works off your changeup very well, or your changeup can work off the fastball. And then lo and behold, you got a guy throwing 160 innings at a high threes, low fours ERA. That's a different season than the one Chris Paddock gave the Tigers and Twins last year. So like that, I think, signifies the importance of bringing in a Paddock and a John King, guys that have had success that can recapture that with the Marlins coaching staff. In terms of Morel and Fairbanks, I view those both as kind of a sign of confidence in what you already have on the roster. That bullpen was good last year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they lose their best. Ronnie Enriquez, he's out for the entirety of 2026 with elbow surgery. So you have Fairbanks to kind of replace the role of Ronnie Enriquez and be that bullpen ace for them this year. Throw the ninth, maybe throw a high leverage seventh or eighth inning. We'll see. I think Fairbanks was a really fun veteran to add to the fold. Morel, if it all works out, it seems like he's facing left-handed pitching and playing first base, while Griffin Conine is probably facing right-handed pitching and playing first base. So that was a complementary piece that they added. They didn't sign him to get 600 plate appearances this year. It seems like they signed him to get 250 to 300 really good plate appearances and play 80, 90 games and be a serviceable piece as a part-time player. But I feel like the way they operated this offseason, including trading Cabrera and Weathers, was a sign of confidence in what they have in the minor leagues and what they had in terms of the young core moving forward.
I want to get back to first base after this, but you mentioned Jansen Junk as someone who was a breakout guy last year. We also saw Kyle Stowers have an all-star season before he got hurt. Jacob Marcy resurrected the Marlins season the back half of the year. Who do you view as like that player potentially this season to have that breakout year? Or someone like maybe a Connor Norby who showed flashes early, down year last year, and maybe could take that step up again?
I think a Norby bounce back would be really darn cool. I think in terms of breakouts, I'm going to give you two that are at different stages in their career, but they're both young. Otto Lopez, I feel like, will take a humongous step this year. You give this guy a whole year playing shortstop for the Miami Marlins, he's going to be one of the better defensive shortstops in Major League Baseball. And I also think there's more power in the tank than what we saw last year. So the average may rise a couple of points. You could hit 5 to 10 more home runs, and we're looking at a really solid everyday shortstop for the Marlins. The other one is the guy they just got in the Edward Cabrera deal, Owen Casey, who is probably going to play a lot of corner outfield. this is a humongous person. I was trying to workshop nicknames with him. I was like, what do we got? So in Chicago, they called him ONKC for Owen Casey. And I was like, okay, that works, but give me the Maple Masher. People already call him Big Red. I love the Maple Masher. I also threw the Great White North at him, and he was like, I think I like Maple Masher. So that's what we're going to roll with. Yeah, that feels good. Canadian, the craziest, like kind of Marge Simpson hair. Like you've got this very like frowing red like locks. It's really amazing.
Her hair's blue.
But red. For some reason, I thought Marge's hair was red, but it almost pops straight up and it's curly. But that's what I got.
It sounds like just from a lot of this conversation, fans obviously have a lot of questions and they look at track records of players they bring in. You brought up Chris Paddock, you bring up John King, Morel, and the role that he's going to play. It just sounds like to me you're saying, hey, Peter Bendix deserves benefit of the doubt based on his track record, not just in Tampa, but some of the savvy moves he's made as the Marlins head of baseball operations.
I think he deserves benefit of the doubt. I'll throw that your way. Do you feel like this guy has done enough to deserve the benefit of the doubt? I think what this guy has done is prove that any trade he makes is putting the Marlins in a better spot.
Absolutely. I'm not speaking for me there. I'm just saying that there's scuttlebutt out in the public amongst the fan base that is just it's the same frustrations you would hear always for years down here. But the difference here, like to me, I see a coherent plan with Peter Bendix. There isn't going to be the Band-Aid signing. There's not going to be irresponsible money thrown out at a free agent. Like there is a coherent plan here that they're trying to execute.
I've talked to enough people in this fan base to know that what Peter Bendix has done over the last couple of years is just different than what the history of that franchise has been in this community for the last bit. Like it's really cool to see a plan and that plan be executed over the course of a couple of years. And that's what Peter is doing right now. And I feel like you can start to play the game of looking back at these trades. Look at Luis Ariza's overall value. And oh, by the way, you got Jacob Marcy in that deal. You got one of the top left-handed pitching prospects in baseball for Tanner Scott, who was bad last year for the Dodgers and was underwhelming for the Padres after the trade, and he was only there for 2 months. Like every single trade, you look back and say, you mean to tell me we got Kyle Stowers and another third baseman for Trevor Rogers, who is hardly throwing for us? Everything he's doing is coming up gold right now. I love it.
I mean, Otto Lopez was a waiver claim, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Graham Pauley was also part of a trade with the Padres. He's turned into a major league regular. I mean, there, as you said, there are different spots everywhere that you can point to and say they got major league caliber guys for person they shipped out. Dan, I know you had a question.
So, Jack McMullen, I'm glad you bring all that up. And, of course, you're closer to the team. You're more behind the scenes to the team. What about all the people that say, man, they're just a computer? Peter Bendix, Clayton McCullough, they just play the numbers. If the numbers say yes, they say yes. If the numbers say no, they say no. How much of it is a sports science, which we do know the Marlins lean on, but how much of a field game do they actually have when it comes to getting these guys and also playing these guys?
I think one of the last things computers have perfected is a heartbeat. Like I think I watched Ex Machina. I don't think those things had beating hearts. So my thing with the Marlins is, and Peter Bendix in particular, I had a great conversation with him at the beginning of last year. And, I asked him about that. I was like, okay, you obviously spearhead a data-driven organization. You were part of a data-driven organization in Tampa Bay. He was with the Tampa Bay Rays for about 2 decades before getting this job as the president of baseball operations. He said, yes, they're data-driven, but we are also a people-driven organization here in Miami. And they care about the guy. They care about every single person in that building, whether it's Kyle Stowers or whether it's the team strength and conditioning coach or whether it's the dietitian or whether it's a janitor. Like they value those people. And they're ready to find the best people for each role. It's amazing to walk into that clubhouse and not find a bad egg. There's always drama in a major league clubhouse. Pretty much any professional sport, you're going to run into somebody that has an ego that's way too large, and you see a diva. That doesn't really exist in this clubhouse. And obviously, part of that is being the youngest roster in Major League Baseball going into last year. But another part of it is they do a really good job of identifying good dudes to have. And if you find 26 good dudes that are driven and want to get better, chances are you're going to start to win a lot of baseball games very soon.
Want to talk about first base with you for a second. You brought it up earlier. By the way, Jack McMullen, radio voice of the Marlins, joins us here on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana. You can also hear him. Is it daily on the Just Baseball podcast? How often do you release the
Yeah, 5 days a week, but I respectfully opt out sometimes. But yeah, some assortment of the three of us will be on Monday through Friday on the Just Baseball show.
You can find that anywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. So you mentioned Christopher Morel, Griffin Conine potentially platooning there. We saw Liam Hicks get a lot of the lefty at-bats at first base last year as well. What do you make of that approach in general by the Marlins this offseason towards that position? It's obviously a marquee position in your lineup with the production at a corner infield spot. All of a sudden, the Marlins have a surplus of outfielders. So what do you make of this approach to first base?
It's a marquee position because of what that position typically provides offensively, right? It's not a marquee position because you need a high-level defender over there. We have seen an interesting cast of characters play first base for other teams around Major League Baseball. I see guys that it looks like they have two left feet and they would be horrible dancers play first base. It's a footwork position, but it's also not a position that you need to be a supreme athlete at. So I feel like they think that they can teach that position to good athletes. Christopher Morel played third base. He played some second base. He played some center field for the Cubs. He played some corner outfield. Why can't that guy learn first base? Griffin Conine is a really good corner outfield defender. He has good first step. He's a quick twitch athlete. He's incredibly strong. Why can't that guy learn the footwork to play first base? They probably feel like that is the quickest turnaround defensively for someone to learn somewhere new. Third base is really hard. Shortstop is really hard. Center field, incredibly hard. First base, it's hard, just like everything else in baseball, but it's not the level of third or short or center or anything like that.
Would have loved to have seen the type of season that Griffin could have had last year if he had stayed healthy, because he got off to such a great start, not just defensively, but he had some great moments at the plate as well. So after all of these questions, how does this team build on last year and not just kind of stay in the thick of things, but maybe take that next step and earn one of those wild card spots? What has to happen for this group?
I think you got to prove that the breakouts last year weren't fluky. I really don't think Kyle Stowers was fluky. If he really didn't run into a month where he struggled last year, I would have said, oh, yeah, there's a chance at major regression this year and the numbers take a serious hit. He ran into like a 4-week stretch at, I want to say, the end of May and beginning of June, where he was struggling to hit anything, and he came out the other side. Major League Baseball at the highest level is a game of constantly adjusting, and Stowers broke out. Pitchers adjusted to him. He looked bad for a couple of weeks, and then he made the adjustment, and he turned into one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball over the course of last year. So a guy like Stowers, a guy like Jacob Marcy proving that his 2 months at the end of the year was no fluke, a guy like Agustin Ramirez getting back to 25, 30 homers, Griffin Conine staying on the field, flirting with 25 homers. There are so many factors that go into that, and frankly, I think the driving force in that is going to be the offense. The pitching staff is interesting because I think like the staff ERA number last year was a little misleading. They had some starters that really were not sharp at points last year, and those guys are not involved. One of them who was not sharp for the first 4 months of the season, Sandy Alcantara, looked like Sandy Alcantara for the final 6 to 8 starts of his 25 season. So a good Sandy, Yuri taking another step to be a possible superstar, the rest of the pitching staff being good, and then the lineup proving that they weren't flukes last year, I think is the way that they build on 79 wins.
All right, last one for you here. It's President's Day.
Yeah.
Hoch loves food. Hoch loves a Mount Rushmore. We started the segment talking some food a little bit. My high-class palate that I have.
Yeah, your omakase and chicken tenders. Yeah,
exactly. It was actually, the omakase was different types of chicken tenders from different. No. Give me, after one season of traveling as a Major League Baseball broadcaster, give me your Mount Rushmore of food cities when you're on the road.
I love that. So I do want to shout out a ballpark food. If you've ever been to San Francisco and Oracle Park, they have a crab sandwich in center field that was the best ballpark food that I have literally ever put in my system.
Better than the Rocky Mountain oysters you had in Colorado.
those are salt bombs. Those are
Agreed.
disgusting, man. Like, it wasn't even the thought of what I was actually eating. I was just so thrown by the level of salt that hit my
Yeah.
tongue. I
Yeah.
felt like I was going to swell up. But in terms of food cities, I'm a sucker for Chicago. I'm from Chicago. And I showed so many people with the Marlins. I said, It's not a deep dish city, folks. It's an Italian beef city. Have you ever watched The Bear? Go watch The Bear. Get yourself an Italian beef. That is the best sandwich out there. It's better than a Philly cheesesteak. I stand by that. I will forever. Chicago is up there for me. New York is amazing. I love Boston. I'm a sucker for good Italian food, and the Italian food in Boston is just exceptional. And I've got a soft spot for Seattle, man. I'm a huge fan of the seafood, like fresh from the Pacific. Put it on my plate. Let's go.
I did 2 Seahawks games in 2024 within a month of each other. And both times I went to a spot at Pike Place and I got a blackened halibut sandwich.
Come on, man.
Unbelievable. It's halibut, but it was so good.
It's the good stuff, dude. I'm a sucker for all that stuff, and like mussels, clams, and all that. You get it fresh out of the ocean, I will eat it. I'm good.
Fantastic. Well, Jack, this was awesome. Appreciate your time. I'll see you out in Jupiter later this week.
Yes.
Long time coming. Appreciate your time on the show. Great stuff. Jack McMullen, radio voice of the Marlins, joining us here on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana.
Appreciate you guys.
Back with more after this.
This is Hoch, Crowder, and Solana.
Is there any possibility that Billy the Marlin is a bird?
For a lot of guys listening,
p.m. and we back on the clock, so don't get cutesy. Dog lead the station unlocked. We got the sports talk and the drama to make sure the T-clock. WQAM is the Avengers with no weak spot. For Joe Rose, Woody Bo, Omar and Moore, Tobin and Leroy giving gooses galore. Yeah, for 2 to 6 is reserved for 3 legends. The captains of America, not no Chris Evans. For Spritz to McRibs and calling out game scores. Hotman, Crowder, Solana, get ready for some more.
4 o'clock hour, welcomed in by Georgie Music, as always. Thanks to Cam Wolf of NFL Network for joining us earlier. Thanks to Jack McMullen, the radio voice of the Marlins, and one of the hosts of the Just Baseball podcast in the last segment. Jack was excellent. Cam was excellent. If you ever listen to a Marlins game on the radio, Jack does an excellent job, as does our good friend Kyle Seeloff on the old TV. And as Jack said, the Marlins get underway in spring training this upcoming weekend. It's already here in Port St. Lucie against the Mets. 4 o'clock hour here on Hoch, Crowder, and Solana. Obviously, Hoch, Crowder, and Solana are not here because I'm talking. Dan Day and Jimmy are in attendance today as well. Appreciate you both being here. All right, let's do 15 minutes of heat here in the 4 o'clock hour. 15 minutes of heat on WQAM is sponsored by Doral Kia, home of the Pricito, our lowest price. Visit us at Doral Kia or DoralKia.com. We know the Heat are 2 games over 500 right now. They're 29 and 27. They are just living in the purgatory they always are, play-in tournament territory in the Eastern Conference after a 14-7 promising start to the season. Stormin Norman was putting up numbers. It seemed like the Heat had found something in their style of play. They were scoring 120, 130 every single night, and now they've kind of come crashing back down to earth a bit with guys in and out of the lineup and middling here at 29 and 27 at the All-Star break. But the All-Star break, the Heat were well represented after John Tesh's wonderful rendition of the NBA and NBC theme song live. We've got to talk about Keyshawn Johnson, who came up from the G League and won the NBA dunk contest. And this is from an article in the Miami Herald from Anthony Chang. Johnson, who's nicknamed Showtime, won the NBA Slam Dunk Contest in front of Pat Riley and a whole bunch more at the Intuit Dome. Johnson, the 3rd player in Heat franchise history to win the Slam Dunk Contest. Harold Miner did it twice in 93 and 95. And Derek Jones Jr., DJJ, did it in 2020. And you could see just from the quotes that Keyshawn Johnson gave after, how much this meant to him. And we talked earlier, and I said it as well, and there are probably plenty of sports talk radio shows across the country doing the NBA All-Star Game is broken and the dunk contest and blah, blah, blah. I literally did that earlier in the show today. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that this means a lot to the players who get the chance to participate in All-Star Weekend in the dunk contest. And this is what Keyshawn Johnson had to say on Saturday after winning the dunk contest. He said, quote, "My journey getting here, I can't thank the Lord enough. I beat the odds. I beat the odds. I made it. I made it into the NBA. I dreamed of every year I was watching the NBA dunk contest. I dreamed of being out there, putting on a show for everybody. I learned from all the people that came before me, paying homage to them, and now I'm here." And this was less than a week before he was bowling in Sioux Falls in the G League, dropped 29 points in a loss, and then came up for All-Star Weekend and won the dunk contest on 5 days' notice. He said he had 2 G League games and 2 days of actual practice. But he said, look, I just stuck to the plan, trusted my dunk coach, Chuck. He told me to stick to the plan. He said he wanted to change it so bad. His blood was boiling a little bit, but they stuck to the plan. They stuck to the plan, and he ended up winning with E40. He jumped over E40, which is way more impressive than jumping over the hood of a Kia. Blake Griffin.
Absolutely right there. And also remember a guy like Keyshawn Johnson, who has been in and out of the league and in the G League right now, winning the dunk competition nets him $105,000, which is no small amount of change, especially for someone who is not a permanent member of the NBA.
Not at all. Great stuff from Keyshawn Johnson. I remember Solana bringing up his name earlier in the season as someone who could be exciting down the line. And I loved the story of how they got E40 to be part of the dunk contest with Keyshawn Johnson. He goes, E40 was part of the plan. My buddy Ethan, he made a call to E40, and we got Unk on board, and he was ready. The love and respect that he gave me just to take time out of his day to be involved with this, I can't ask for anything better. I thank Unk for coming out here. He's a pioneer for the Bay Area. They were also putting on for LA SoCal too, and it was really cool that E40 came out and participated with Keyshawn Johnson, who won the dunk contest. And you mentioned it earlier, Dan Day, about Norman Powell, 32 years old, over a decade in the league, finally getting into an all-star game. I know that one of his 2 performances off the bench was not all that great. He missed every single 3 he took, even though he participated in the 3-point contest during the skills challenge. But some of the names that he was out there with on the world team, Luka, Jokic, really cool to see Stormin Norman a part of that after the season he had been having for Miami, a well-deserved all-star bid for him.
Absolutely. It's one of those things he kind of came into the season saying that he wanted to prove that he was an all-star, and he wanted to prove it with the Heat, and he did exactly that. So now, we look forward to the rest of the season and to see what he has to do. Hopefully he can stay healthy, because either way, whether it's with the Miami Heat or with another team, his services are going to be highly desired and hopefully can make some money. And Keyshawn Johnson with E40, it makes sense. He's a Bay Area guy. Remember, every year in the Bay Area Summer League, he and his family all come out to watch him play. So it's all kind of making sense to me right now. So yeah, it's all full circle. Because remember, like the whole crowd, you're like, man, there's a lot of noise for Keyshawn Johnson. It's because every single one of his family members comes out because they live in that area. So that's cool that E40 remembers one of the standout basketball players from the area, and Efeezy gets his thing going for the dunk competition.
How do you think E40 feels about Keyshawn Johnson referring to him as Unk?
He's okay with that. I think they know each other well enough. I think so, yeah.
Isn't Unk just code for you're old?
I don't know.
Jimmy,
E40.
Call E40.
Sure.
Jimmy, when did you start listening to Efeezy?
I don't know.
Okay.
Very good.
Good answer.
maybe high school or college. I
was gonna say E40's been in the game for easily 30 years.
Jimmy, you were in high school 30 years ago?
20 years ago.
So,
I mean, honestly, it dawned on me the other day. Somebody was, "Oh, your 10-year reunion's coming up." No, not quite. It's been like 15 years for me. It's been a decade since I graduated college, which blows my mind. I have a kid. I have a 2-month-old.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, during our last long commercial break, you should have seen the diaper I changed. Oh boy.
You become narcotized to it, though, don't you? Like, I see my friends change diapers. I'm like, oh, and they're like, "There's nothing, man. Don't worry about it." Their kids will poop and pee on them. They're like, "Don't worry about it, man. It's nothing." I'm like,
we have a new color on the wall from my son peeing on the wall while we're trying to change him. It's all part of it.
Yeah.
It's all part of it. And the next owners of this house, whenever that is, how do you feel about pea yellow?
Beautiful.
How's that for 15 minutes of heat?
That's 15 minutes of heat. Like no other.
The Heat will reconvene for practice on Thursday in Miami before resuming their schedule on Friday in Atlanta against the Hawks. I'm curious what the vibe around this team will be the rest of the season, because there was that like 1 week, or not even a week, that few day stretch where it was like, oh, Giannis, maybe. Could it be? Then there was Ja, which not upset the Heat didn't make that move. But you go from thinking, maybe the Heat are going to finally make that splash again and land a whale for the first time in a while, and it's not just going to be all talk. And then the Heat do nothing. And it's a bit of a letdown amongst the fan base. And now, again, they're sitting here 29-27. They're 5 games under 500 since that 14-7 start. Tyler Hero only played in 11 games this season. I'm curious what the vibes are going to be around this team the rest of the year, because like they're not a relevant team in the league. They really are not.
My only thing is this is my hope. And you can say, how is this team going to change? Well, they can change if Tyler Hero gets healthy. I would love to see down the stretch Tyler Hero and Norman Powell out there playing together, not competing against each other, but both playing so we can kind of see which guy we really want more, or which guy we're going to pay more. I would like to just see them possibly go on a run by adding a healthier Tyler Hero. But once again, that's not up to us. That's up to Mother Nature and Tyler Hero's health. Because I really do feel as though Tyler Hero is extremely unhealthy right now because he's hurting his stock every game that he sits on the bench.
Yeah, you think a guy at his age who's been an all-star who has a scoring ability that he does, it always – I wonder if that's the holdup, because when people talk about the trade packages the Heat could offer, you're looking at a guy at the top of that package that is an all-star, a young player, and a proven scorer in this league, and people talk about him like he's trash. And obviously he has his shortcomings, availability being one of them, but people throw Tyler Hero to the side like there's no skill set there. And it's just kind of bonkers to me. So that's 15 minutes of Heat. We got through it. I led a 15 minutes of Heat talk. How about that? Defying the odds.
Let's go.
Thank you, Jimmy. I needed that. Dan Day, let's get our 4 o'clock headlines here, because George Richards will join us later on in this hour to talk some Olympic hockey and some Panthers hockey.
Headlines are brought to you by Doral Volkswagen, home of the Pricito, our lowest price. Visit us at Doral Volkswagen or at DoralVolkswagen.com. Sources say the Dolphins will release Nick Westbrook-Akine, lineman James Daniels.
And that's it.
Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill also.
Yeah, the Dolphins remake the wide receiver room. The marquee release of Nick Westbrook-Akine. Again, Dan, you've had now 2 hours and 15 minutes. Have you come up with your favorite of the 11 Nick Westbrook-Akine catches Dolphins career?
I'm still debating between those 11 real quick. Although he can look at Odell Beckham Jr. and be like, gotcha.
Kind of.
I think so. OBJ only had like 6 or 7 catches in his illustrious career with the Dolphins. So,
it's Hoch and Crowder and Solana. They bring me on as some kind of football expert, and I'm not that, clearly, because when they were asking me about the Dolphins offseason heading into this year, you know what I was doing? I said, hey, I've called Titan games before. I've called Nick Westbrook-Akine touchdowns before. He's going to be a solid player for this team. 11 catches, 89 yards, no touchdowns. I know nothing about anything.
I was trying to think. I thought that there was a late in the season reception, but I'm looking now and there was not a late in the season reception. There was a target in the Pittsburgh Steelers game. Maybe I got excited because his name was called, but ooh, man, okay. There was definitely a game that he caught a pass that with I don't know. I can't remember.
Very memorable Dolphins tenure. Somebody in the chat brought up Will Fuller, and it made me think, when the Dolphins try and get this like third receiver for this offense in recent years in the Chris Greer regime, between Will Fuller V, Nick Westbrook-Akine, and Odell, woof. Woof. And somebody also chimes in saying, certainly a more memorable season than James Daniels. Yes, but only because James Daniels only played 3 snaps. Dan, which of those 3 snaps were your favorite?
Just the first one, the excitement that we had a lineman that was going to be in there, just possibly making things happen. Being honest. Okay. Gosh. I will say, okay, so probably the most memorable Nick Westbrook-Akine reception this year was a 1 reception against the Buffalo Bills that helped us cement that 30-13 victory. It was 7 yards, but you really felt as though it was really something that could propel us through the season, and it was a big win for us. So yeah, that was the late in the season reception for Nick Westbrook-Akine that got me very excited.
Well, leave the memories alone. We'll miss you, Nick Westbrook-Akine. And obviously, we talked to Cameron Wolf, and we'll hear from him again in the 5 o'clock hour. The Tyreek Hill era, and just the juxtaposition of how productive he was as a Dolphin and how dynamic he was as a Dolphin to what they actually accomplished while he was here. A tough legacy to reconcile when it comes to Tyreek Hill's Dolphins tenure.
Yeah. Anthony Edwards did win the MVP of the All-Star games yesterday.
For a guy who basically openly said, yeah, we're not going to try.
And then afterwards, he kind of recanted that statement. He said, all of us were giving us effort. Of course, when you win the MVP, of course, everyone was trying. You know? Don't want to diminish that MVP right there, you know?
Amazing how that changes.
Canes baseball team, they tried hard yesterday to score a lot of runs, and they did. At 27-3, they defeated Lehigh in just 6 1/3 innings. They play tomorrow as they host UCF at 6.
I mean, if we're doing college baseball here, shout out to USF and their series win over the weekend against Illinois, and listener of the program, head coach at Creighton, Mark Kingston, they also won their season opening series. So there you go. There's your college baseball.
That'd be a nice little story. Creighton College World Series.
Omaha.
Canes,
Hometown team.
Canes play Tuesday, tomorrow.
Yeah, UCF.
Yep.
Against the Solana school that he got waitlisted at.
Yep.
Still taking shots, huh? Got to take that shot.
He's in Spain, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for some reason he'll find out about it.
And Dan, the Canes baseball team, they play again on Tuesday against UCF.
The school that Solana got waitlisted
Yeah,
on.
okay.
Yeah, that was it. And 6 o'clock. Got it. Good.
Yeah.
Canes baseball team has not been to Omaha in 9 years, so hopefully that'll change this year because there's nothing more electric than Omaha during the College Baseball World Series. Canes basketball team, they're trying to make a run to the tournament. They overcame a 7-point deficit with 1 minute left, going on an 8-0 run in the final minute against North Carolina State to defeat them 77-76. They host Virginia Tech tomorrow at 8. So busyness on the campus tomorrow night, right, Jimmy? Because doesn't the baseball team play tomorrow night?
They do.
Who are they playing?
Canes plays Central Florida.
Okay. So that's at 6 o'clock. And then the basketball team at the Watsco Center is going to play Virginia Tech at 8 o'clock. So maybe a little double dip right there.
You mentioned Canes basketball. ESPN.com today, going through potential tournament teams. They have 5 locks from the ACC: Duke, Virginia, Louisville, UNC, and Clemson. They have 3 should-be-ins: NC State, SMU, and Jay Lucas and the Miami Hurricanes.
All right.
Here's what they say real quick. The Hurricanes' chances had dipped after a trio of recent losses, but 3 consecutive wins have Jay Lucas's team back on the rise. Back-to-back resume-boosting victories over North Carolina and NC State. They own the state of North Carolina, the Canes do. That was my editorializing. Not what they said.
Be careful. Be careful. You got to beat Duke.
Whatever.
They beat Wake Forest.
Hurricanes, no one cares about Duke. The Hurricanes have a top 40 resume quality nationally, 8th in the ACC, and their consensus model at large chances are up roughly 30% over the past 3 weeks, a positive trend at a critical point in the season. They have 3 more chances to score quadrant 1 wins, of which they already have 4. There you go.
We're going to close this out with going USA, USA, USA. Over the weekend, they beat Denmark and they beat Germany. That's the men's team. The women's team earlier today took care of Sweden 5-0. The women are going to play for the gold medal either against Canada or Switzerland in the final Thursday at 1.
We'll talk with George Richards about Team USA Olympic hockey in the next segment. Dan, did you see Matthew Tkachuk's chirp at Leon Draisaitl from the game against Germany?
Absolutely.
How awesome was that?
I love it that they have so much pride in their country and in their game and in their, just everything, man. They're not out there trying to, what do you call it? Reach out. They're there. They're to win the gold medal, man. It's been since 1980. We need this.
Matthew Tkachuk, hated by many in the NHL, people who cover the NHL, fans of the NHL. It was such a good chirp that even folks that were like, I can't stand this guy, but I have to give him credit because that was an unbelievable line to Leon Draisaitl. George Richards, Florida Hockey Now, covers the Panthers, will join us next on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana.
You're listening to the Hoch, Crowder, and Solana Show.
Hey, man, I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm the hottest chick in the game right now, man.
If you're listening, whoa. Sing it back, whoa.
4 o'clock hour on Hoch, Crowder, and Solana. Appel filling in today with Dan Day and Jimmy. Do you guys miss this song as the Panthers' goal song?
Seriously?
It was okay.
Yeah, I do. I kind of miss it.
Okay, so it's Sweetness by Jimmy Eat World. Not our Jimmy. Jimmy does not eat the world. I liked the song. I think it's a terrible goal song. A goal song you need to be able to clap with or chant to, and Panthers Pulse gives us that. Sweetness, it just didn't. And by the way, they've won 2 cups with Panther Pulse, so we're partial to Panther Pulse.
But when I first started going to Panthers games years ago, that was the one that was playing. So it's kind of it's part of my ingrained in me. So that's why I think I miss it.
Like I said, great song, not a good goal song. George Richards, Florida Hockey Now, joins us now on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. George, it's great to see your beautiful face.
You know what? You are one of the sweetest boys in town.
Oh,
I appreciate you, Josh. How are you?
And I'm doing great. You're wearing your Marlins teal. You must be very excited for Teal Sundays this season.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing the Marlins back in the old unis. As many people are. You talk about the Florida Panthers old goal song. Yeah, there's certainly a debate about, Jimmy Eat World or whatever versus the Panthers Pulse. You can go, but with the Marlins teal, I don't think there's much debate there. I think everybody wants that to come back. So.
Should we do 20 minutes on the Marlins, you and I, or should we do some hockey?
Well, they had the full squad reported today. So up in Jupiter. Baseball's here, brother.
Yes,
you can't deny it. You're trying to deny it, but it's here.
So, George, you're a big Flanagan's guy. Every time I see you, you've got your green Flanagan's cup, and because it's present,
well, they're great. They're great cups. I mean, they're great cups.
Of course. As he takes a sip from one right now, if you're not watching on our YouTube stream at the moment, George, in honor of President's Day, in honor of you appearing on a show hosted by Mark Hochman. Can you please give us your Mount Rushmore of either Flanagan's locations or items on the menu from Flanagan's? You could pick one or the other.
All right. Locations. Well, I live out here inside the new one in Sunrise. I believe it's the newest one on the block. They rebuilt the Pines one after the fire. But I think you got to go Coconut Grove, is the Mount Rushmore. Maybe the one in Hialeah off the Gratney. That's a beaut. And then, Pompano, old school, one of the originals.
So, and how about menu items? I'm making you do both after I said you had a choice.
Okay. No, that's fine. The ribs are spectacular. The wings are actually very underrated. They're very good wings.
I agree.
They're very, what do you call it? They consistent.
Yes.
That lunch burger special. You get into that parking lot at around 11:30 and you smell that burger. It's hard to beat that burger lunch. So
one more.
Rib rolls.
Okay. I was going to say, how are you going to go a Mount Rushmore from Flanagan's without rib rolls? Now, mine would be slightly different. I would go blackened mahi.
Beautiful.
Blackened chicken Philly.
Love it.
Regular Philly cheesesteak.
Love it.
And the French fries.
Yeah, the fries are great. Yeah, but the fries are a side.
I know. It's still a menu item.
I mean, the rib rolls are an appetizer. The fries are a side. I mean, I didn't say, ribs, baked potato, and then, you know what else? I look dirty rice. No, you don't do that. The fries are just
those tumbleweed onion rings or whatever you want to call them. Those are also
appetizer. That's an appetizer.
Yeah. George, let's talk some hockey.
Oh, okay.
Let's do that. You're with FloridaHockeyNow.com. If people don't know, you cover the Florida Panthers, have for many, many years. The Panthers at this Olympic break are in a pretty precarious position in the standings. It's been such a weird season where they can be the team with the most Olympians
in
Milan while also digging themselves quite the hole in the Eastern Conference standings for a number of reasons: injury, inconsistent play. But coming out of this Olympic break, does this team, in your opinion, still have a chance to go on a run? And will we know in the first couple of games here afterwards if they're really going to go for it?
Yeah, I think we will know because they open up not this Thursday, but I believe it's next Thursday, the 26th.
20,
Yeah. So,
Toronto,
okay.
right?
So, yeah, they've got Toronto on Thursday and then Buffalo on Friday. And those are both two teams that are ahead of the Panthers in the standings. If the Panthers are able to win both those games in regulation, that might tell you right then and there, hey, the Panthers are in pretty good shape. But listen, they've got 25 games left, 49 days in which to play those. They're going to be playing almost every other day. Some days, like Thursday, Friday, they're going to be playing back to backs. I mean, this schedule is so condensed. It is literally a sprint to the finish, and the Panthers are going to be getting some players back. And I think that's something that's a very big positive for the Panthers. Dmitry Kulikov is coming back. Seth Jones is coming back at different points, but coming back in the next couple of weeks. These guys, so that's going to help. And they're going to need it. But they're also, you got to figure they're going to have guys get hurt. We saw Tarasov get hurt in the final game of the before the break. You might have guys get knocked out now that we're in the knockout round of the Olympics. And they're, like you said, 8 points out of the playoffs. So the Panthers are going to have to win four or five games moving forward of that 25 games to make it. If they're able to win 20 of the 25 games, that puts them at 101 points. And that puts them on a pace that we have not seen them play at this year. So it sounds doable until you kind of say, but can this team do it? I don't know. I don't know.
So you're saying that they can basically afford 4, maybe 5 regulation losses over this stretch.
That's it.
It's such an interesting conversation with this team because I've had this discussion with friends of mine. Just I'm down on them and their chances to jump all these teams. Like it's one thing if they were in the West, because the West is this season is not as good as everybody in the East above the Panthers. Like the Panthers lose and everybody else in the East wins. And like every single night, these games have such huge implications in the standings that like, even if they go like 18-7 here and they have a great pace to the finish, it still might not be enough because everybody above them has been so good this season. So even if they get all these guys back
and Florida's go
on this run.
Yeah, and Florida's going to have to take care of business against the teams. Luckily, there's enough teams in front of them that Florida is going to play. The Columbus Blue Jackets won 9 out of 10 going into the break. Is that sustainable? Don't think so. You've got games against Washington, Ottawa, Philadelphia, obviously Toronto, Buffalo, and Boston left. So they're going to have their now. That's the other thing. You can lose 4 or 5, but make it sure it's against the right teams and not make sure it's against when you go out west. Lose to the Edmonton Oilers. If you're going to lose to the Vancouver Canucks. Don't do it against Toronto or Boston or Buffalo.
Don't lose to Vancouver. They're a team that's trying to lose again.
Well, you know what I'm saying. You don't want to lose to the teams in the East because almost everybody that you play is a team that you're competing with.
You mentioned Daniil Tarasov and his injury a moment ago. Is there an update on him? I know during the Olympic break, is there any indication of the severity of that? Because the last couple appearances for him have not been great, but on the whole, he's had a really solid season for the Panthers.
I agree. Yeah, no, I think he's been fine as the backup. Listen, they kind of I don't know what happened in that Tampa game. Florida played as hard as they could. Gave up a couple power play goals to the Lightning. That was coming off a back-to-back that went to overtime against Boston the night before with flights the next day to Milan. That was just a weird situation. It did not look good for Daniil Tarasov. We have not gotten an update because everybody went to, Italy or their vacation places. We should know in the coming days. But again, it did not look good. He could not get up. It looked like a groin injury and not just a slight groin injury. It looked like a bad one, but we'll see. Maybe this 3 weeks has been good to him, but you talk about Tarasov, he's been okay. Has Sergei Bobrovsky been okay? I don't
No.
think he's even been okay. I think he's been a weakness of this Florida Panther team. Maybe the 3 weeks off will be good for Sergei Bobrovsky. He's had his moments. Obviously,
Certainly.
he looks like Bob and some nights that the team lets him down. But there have been games where the Florida Panthers certainly were the better team, and they did not get the goaltending they needed. The statistics that we always have kind of poo-poo to get when it comes to Sergey early in this, when he first started out here, they do not look good at all. So he's got some of the worst statistics of any goalie in the NHL, especially among starters. That needs to get rectified. You talk about the Panthers going on a run. Sergei Bobrovsky is going to have to help carry this team. There's no doubt about that. They cannot be, winning game 6-5 because they won't.
On the goaltending situation, an interesting storyline that developed throughout this season. You go back to the preseason. Brandon Bussey and Neil Tarasov were battling for that backup job. It seemed like from the get-go, when they brought Tarasov in, that he was going to be the two regardless, and they were going to try and sneak Bussey through waivers and stash him in the AHL. Well, the Hurricanes, if you haven't been following the rest of the league besides the Panthers, the Hurricanes put a claim in on Brandon Bussey, and he has been one of the best goaltenders in the Eastern Conference playing for that Carolina Hurricanes team. Is there any sort of retrospective reflection by this group of front office folks on that situation, seeing how this has kind of developed here late in the season for the Panthers? Or was this just, you can't really predict that Brandon Bussey would go to Carolina and perform this way?
You can't predict that, but yeah, you're absolutely nailed it on the head. I mean, Tarasov would have had to look terrible in training camp to lose that number 2 spot, because he was always the plan. It was Sergei Bobrovsky with Tarasov, before free agency even opened in July. So Tarasov looked great in training camp. He won the job. He didn't lose the job. Brandon Bussey just got it today. Today got a 3-year contract from the Carolina Hurricanes. So I think publicly, no, the Florida Panthers haven't said anything about, well, did we make the right? Because you can't second guess yourself. I mean, Tarasov was the backup, and Busey ends up going to Carolina and doing stuff that I think maybe what they're saying is, hey, we got it right? We looked at this guy. He would have been a great number 3 for us, obviously. So again, the Florida Panther goalie department did get it right. Maybe they picked the wrong guy, but maybe they didn't. Who knows what Brandon Bussey does here? I don't know. You just never know. But he looked really good at camp here, and he was he was a top prospect for the Boston Bruins for the past couple of years.
Well, certainly, as currently constructed, due to health, what the Carolina Hurricanes are putting out there in front of their goaltender in their defensive pairings, a bit more sturdy than what we're seeing from the Panthers at the moment because of injury. So who knows, to your point, if Bussey would have that kind of success here with the Panthers. But, it's funny. You think back to like Alex Lyon and now Bussey and Stolars and all these guys who are it's almost like goalie rehab in a way where, hey, if you want to go for one season and be a backup in Florida or play in Florida, you're going to get a contract from somebody on the other side. Maybe attractive to some players for another reason.
And it may be true for Tarasov too, whether he stays here or goes somewhere else. Things did not go well for him in Columbus, and we were looking at, if it didn't work here in Florida, it's not going to work for him. But it seems to be, we'll see what happens moving forward. But
so I don't know, George, if you saw this as it relates to the Olympics, but there was a story out of Finland that the Panthers contingent of the Finnish roster went to Finnish management and said, hey, we want Paul Maurice to coach this national team. Do you know anything about that? Can you?
No, never heard anything of it.
Really?
I never. No, that's the first I've heard of it. When did this get reported?
They talked about it on the broadcast of Finland. I don't know if it was the last game that Finland played in or the one prior to that, but there was a report out of Finland that the trio of Panthers lobbied hard for Paul Maurice to coach the Finnish national team. Obviously, that did not happen, but that would have been pretty interesting, I think.
Yeah, I think it would have been pretty interesting, and I think that there's a lot of pride in Finnish hockey that probably wouldn't allow that to happen. I think, there aren't a whole lot of very good, The name a country, I don't know, Italy. Let's just go with Italy because that's an easy one. I mean, you need to get an NHL person or something. But Finland's got their own professional league. They've got their own coaches. I don't ever see a non-Finn coaching the Finns. But Paul Maurice obviously would have been a pretty good choice. He could have brought a couple of his guys with him, and maybe Olli Jokinen could have joined him behind the bench. Olli's coaching in Helsinki, so But no, I had not heard that. So,
George, staying on the Olympics, it feels like we're staring down the barrel of another Team USA versus Team Canada.
Yeah.
You've watched both teams play in this tournament so far. To me, there's no question Canada has looked better of the two teams.
Yeah.
If they played tomorrow, does Team USA beat Team Canada? Because right now, I just don't see it. Now, the one thing that Team USA does have over Canada, in my opinion, they certainly have the goaltending advantage. Connor Hellebuck over Jordan Binnington. Outside of that, I'm not so certain.
And they've also had a year to stew over the Four Nations loss, which is a thing. I mean, they really wanted to win that championship last year in Boston, and they lose in overtime to Team Canada. Do they beat them? I think it's going to be an evenly matched game. Listen, Canada has looked extremely strong, but so's Team USA. Yes, they've struggled here or there, but I knowing those guys, do they really even take some of this stuff all that seriously? I mean, these guys do know that when they step out onto the ice, they're going to beat this team. They are not losing to the teams that they've been playing. In Team Canada, there's just a lot of pressure on those guys to win those games 10-2. They've got to win those games 10-2, or they're going to hear about it. The Americans could have won that game beat Denmark 4-3. All right, cool. You guys won. All right, let's see you next time. So a lot less pressure on the Americans to win gold. It's more of a internal pressure, but it's going to be a way. And listen, Team USA's got the tougher road to the gold medal game. They're going to have to play, I believe, likely have to play Sweden. Maybe they might have Latvia. It might be Latvia.
Or
they might be the Latvians in the quarterfinal round, and then you likely have Finland in the semifinals. So. A tough road for Team USA to get to the gold medal game.
Can you put into perspective what Macklin Celebrini is doing? Because he's obviously having an incredible season in the NHL, not just for his age, but in general. He's having an unbelievable season. And now he's in the Olympics playing on a line with Connor McDavid. And it got me thinking the other day, I wonder if this is just a much more condensed version of what we saw with Alexander Barkov and Jaromir Jagr when those two got to play together with the Panthers, and Jagr kind of got to mentor Alexander Barkov a bit. But, I mean, you're looking at – it's crazy to say that, because McDavid is still very much in his prime and still could get better. But Macklin Celebrini is building up to be that caliber of player in this league, and now they're playing together for a 2-3 year.
We knew he was a generational talent, right? I mean, San Jose was just – just so happy to have won that lottery, and for good reason. They're building a nice deal down in San Jose, and it's being built around him. Celebrini, what he's doing right now at that age with those players, there was a lot of talk that he wasn't even going to make Team Canada. And obviously, because he was, because of the experience level, and all that. But you see what he's doing, and he's just lighting it up.
Last thing for you here, watching the Kachucks play on a line with Jack Eichel. That's been so much fun to watch, those styles together. And I think we're starting to see Jack Eichel kind of cement himself maybe as the best American player at the moment. I mean, with what he's done the last couple of years in Vegas and now how much he means to Team USA, he's becoming what people, I think, want Austin Matthews to be in a way.
Sure. And Austin Matthews, the captain of Team USA, I think they had to give him that based on all the grief that he gets in Toronto. But yeah, I mean, quietly or not quietly, he's been absolutely terrific, and he was great in Buffalo. Jack Eichel had to get, just like Sam Reinhart, forced his way out of that what was a train wreck then. Buffalo seems to have gotten things, kind of on
Jay
track,
Thompson.
right? Yeah, they're looking good right now. But he gets out of there. He goes to Vegas. He's been absolutely terrific there with the Golden Knights. Yeah, I would take him right now over Austin Matthews. Absolutely. And we were talking about it a couple weeks before the Olympics. Who's going to be the captain of the Team USA? And Matthew and Brady Kachuk came up, and Matthews, it was like, it's got to be Matthews just because you have to give it to him. I mean, you can't mess with that guy's psyche anymore. But yeah, Jack Eichel came up. It was like, that's probably a pretty good one, but you don't have to worry about him. He just goes and plays and does his thing. So you just, you can leave the letter off his sweater.
George Richards, FloridaHockeyNow.com. We covered everything. We gave you 2 different Flanagan's Mount Rushmores. We gave you a little Marlins baseball, kind of, not really. Talk some Panthers, talk some Olympics. I mean, was this not the time of our lives on President's Day?
It's one of the highlights of my life. That's for sure.
Say it.
I will cherish this moment forever. Thank you.
I will always cherish anytime I get to speak to George Richards of FloridaHockeyNow.com, read his work, read his coverage. The Panthers are back in action in about a week and a half.
Yeah,
and
almost 2 weeks, but
they've got a lot of work to do if they're going to make the postseason again this year. But hey, maybe not the worst thing in the world if they get a full off season off to get healthy and come back strong in 26-27. Not the worst thing in the world, but I can't imagine those guys are wired that way, especially
they're not.
No, they're not. So they'll give it a full go. George, thanks so much for your time as always.
All right, thanks, fellas. Appreciate you.
Back with more Hochman, Crowder, and Solana after this.
This is Hoch, Crowder, and Solana.
I have this fantasy, I've had this for years, of becoming obese and bedridden and just watching TV all day and having people bring me food.
Hurricane I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good.
This is how Jimmy feels on the day the Dolphins start and continue to dismantle their roster from the previous iteration. Gone are Tyreek Hill. Gone is Tyreek Hill. Gone is Bradley Chubb. Gone is Nick Westbrook-Akine. Gone is James Daniels. Soon to be gone, Tua Tagovailoa, I think. You know, it's an interesting conversation that we'll have with Cameron Wolf in the next segment, but I know that Channing has brought up the hypothetical of, well, if this is a lost season anyways, and you're going to have to pay him regardless, why not keep Tua on the roster? And man, Dan Day, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, when you demote him to third string last year, that is the end of that guy being in your building. Like, you cannot continue with him, especially with a new coaching staff and a new front office staff. I just don't think it's worth it. That distraction of him being there every single day, it's not worth it. It really isn't. You just got to bite the bullet in a bad see like that. Well, if this season is going to be bad, that's the argument to just get rid of him and eat the money. What if he regains some kind of semblance of solid play, and this goes from a team that's going to be set up with cap space and high draft pick to purgatory again, where they're drafting in the 11th or 12th or 13th spot because they fumbled their way into 7 wins. Now, it'd be great if they can overachieve and do that. But at the expense of what they're trying to rebuild and make this team into, I don't think I'm on board with Tua Tagovailoa coming back. He has, at one step or another, made misstep after misstep, whether that is with his play on the field or with what he says to reporters in press conferences. And we may be overrating how much that stuff actually matters, the press conference stuff, but man, some of the things that he said this year after games, I don't think there's coming back from that. And I think when you're trying to reset a culture and when you're trying to reset an organization, the last thing you would do is hang on to the face of the iteration of this franchise that put you in this spot in the first place.
Yeah, I hear the pragmatic thought of, well, we're paying him anyway. Might as well have him in the building, get some money out of him, get some use out of him. You know, he can only help you by being on the team and not hurting you by being on someone else's team. But the logical thing is this. He is the glaring symbol of the Mike McDaniel era. And this new organization, or at least this new staff, has made it very clear they want to cut all ties to the past. So logically, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and you know, whether they're able to find a trade partner, I don't buy. I just think this is going to be a clean release. And quite frankly, they should just eat all the money now. Get it over with. You know, if you're really trying to build towards 2027, towards 2020, I know that the money won't be an issue in 28. But if you spread that money out over 27, you're not as flexible there.
Why prolong the pain? Why prolong the misery? Just get it over with. Eat it.
I agree, and I'm glad that this is a new voice leading this charge. John Eric Sullivan, Jeff Hafley. They have no ties, right? And I think they've handled this really well in the public as far as saying what's going to happen without saying what's going to happen. And I see somebody in the YouTube comments here saying that, first off, my name's not Papel. Isn't that Spanish for paper?
Papel?
Papel is paper.
Yeah. Not a Patriots fan by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want to see the Dolphins lose, but look at the schedule that they're going to have this year. Look at the players they're going to have this year. They're telling you right now, they're not doing anything with this season. They don't have the cap space to add. They've got all these draft picks they're going to try and utilize to the best of their ability. And they're going to look forward to 27 and beyond because that's when things open up. That's when they can start really building around this foundation. And I don't think it's going to be throwing big money at all these guys like they had been previously. It's going to be smart. Daniel used the word pragmatic. I think that's what we're going to see from this. Much like with Peter Bendix using the raise model with the Marlins, not to that extent of penny pinching when it comes to the roster, but we're going to see John Eric Sullivan operate the way that he's been used to for almost 20 years when he was with the Green Bay Packer organization. And hopefully that bears some fruit, and hopefully we see a team that's capable of winning big games late in the season, in cold weather, on the road, whatever it may be. But it can't be with Tua Tagovailoa on this roster next season. And I think back to, some of the legitimately great memories that era of Dolphins football gave us. I know in the grand scheme, they didn't do a lot of winning, but winning at home against the Cowboys to clinch a playoff spot in a big game.
Christmas Eve.
70-20 over the Broncos. Heck, I know they lost this playoff game, but the playoff game when they went up to Buffalo in McDaniel's first season with Skylar Thompson and had a lead in the second half in that game, that was fun, man. It was a fun team going for it on fourth down against the Patriots early in the season. I remember the commentary like it was yesterday. I'm not so sure I agree with this 4th and 7 here before the half. I don't think the Dolphins should go for it. Boom, quick slant, Jalen Waddle touchdown. That was some of the most fun Dolphins football we've watched in years. Oh, the Charger game to open the season.
Oh.
Tua Tagovailoa out-dueling Justin Herbert in L.A.
Fade to Tyreek Hill.
Yes, dropped it in the bucket. I still don't know how that pass was completed. Oh, when Tua was still mobile in the pocket, stepping up on the run and chucking one deep down the right sideline for Tyreek, who made a sliding catch. Blowing out the Commanders in Washington. Tyreek Hill running by everybody. The comeback against the Ravens in Baltimore. Oh, I mean, legitimately great memories that this Dolphin team provided the last 4 years. But when it's all said and done, 0 playoff wins to show for it, cap hell, and disgruntled superstars they brought in. And so you get where we're at. And that's a fired coaching staff, a fired general manager, fired scouts, fired assistant GMs, and a whole new slew of people selling the dream that this Dolphin team, for the first time in 25 plus years, can actually go on a run in the postseason and win something meaningful. By the way, what a collection of coaches in LA with the Chargers now, between Harbaugh, McDaniel, and Adam Gase. I'm happy to see Adam Gase back in the league, by the way. People would be surprised how connected he still was to the league after his Jets tenure. There's a reason he was Peyton Manning's guy. And before the Mike McDaniel era, that 10-6 Jay Ajayi season with the Dolphins and Ryan Tannehill, that was fun. I know it didn't end great for Gase for a number of different reasons, but still made the playoffs here, and he's still a smart football coach. And hopefully he and McDaniel, I'm rooting for those two guys with the Chargers. I really am. I'm rooting for Mike McDaniel. It didn't work out here. Really wanted it to, but I'm rooting for that guy to go on and have success. So with that, the Tyreek Hill era is over. The Bradley Chubb era is over. And soon enough, likely the Tua Tagovailoa era down here in Miami as well. Let's get our 5 o'clock headlines in the 5 o'clock Funky Buddha Happy Hour, brought to you by our friends at Funky Buddha Brewery. Good vibes on tap. And hey, Dan Day, is it not trivia night?
I'm going to Funky Buddha as soon as I get out of here tonight.
Spoil one question for me.
Oh, I got to get to it real quick. Let me get to the question real quick. One question for tonight. Do you want a sports question? Do you want just a general question? What do
I
you
want a question that you would ask to anybody during this. I don't care about the category. I just want one of your go-to questions.
I'll give you one that you should get. On this day in 1923, Howard Carter opened the burial chamber of what Egyptian pharaoh?
King Tut.
Yes.
Boom.
Okay.
I win trivia.
I got one more closer, though, closer to now. Sign of the Times marked the debut solo single by what former One Direction member?
Harry Styles. Come on.
Very
I'm a Harry
nice.
Styles.
All right. That was easier than Tutankhamun.
So every now and again, the Steve Martin SNL King Tut sketch pops up. And I remember as a kid finding that funny. I didn't really understand the reference. And now I look at it and that thing must have been unbelievably, like if things could go viral back then, that would have been the clip, right? Of that time.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get quick headlines here in the 5 o'clock Funky Buddha Happy Hour, sponsored by Doral Hyundai, home of the Pricito, our lowest price. Visit us at Doral Hyundai or DoralHyundai.com because Cameron Wolf of NFL Network will join us next.
Also, getting the cut ski today, lineman James Daniels, thank you for your time 3 plays with the Dolphins. And Nick Westbrook-Akine, thank you for your 11 receptions this past season with the Dolphins.
Don't forget his 89 yards.
Oh, 89 yards. Okay. He had a game or two where he got more than multiple receptions. I'm really enthralled right now. Eileen Gu in the freestyle big air in the Olympics right now, looking to get on the medal stand. She might have done it. Eileen Gu. Whew. That's Jimmy and I's favorite athlete in the big air competition.
Gu.
Eileen Gu. Holy goodness. I hope she gets back on the medal stand and gets the three-peat. Google her, Eileen Gu, G-U. And you'll see why Jimmy and I are so excited about this big air competition.
I mean, she must be. I thought we needed quick headlines there. We have been derailed by Eileen Gu.
Anthony Edwards won the MVP last night at the All-Star Games. Let's see what else is going on. Inter Miami, they opened their season against LAFC Saturday. Oh, Jimmy, did you know that there's a baseball game on the campus in Coral Gables tomorrow?
I did not know that.
Oh, it's UCF.
I knew that.
6 o'clock. And there's also a basketball game against Virginia Tech at 8 o'clock. Other than that, baseball team doing good. Basketball team looking great. And Heat forward Norman Powell says he wants to be with the Heat long term. He's 32 years old. We shall see about that. And that is headlines.
And we'll see if the Heat agree with Norman Powell. We'll see.
Eileen Gu's in second place, silver medal position right now after the final run.
Okay. We'll keep tabs on Eileen Gu. But first, we'll talk to Cameron Wolf of NFL Network, talk some Dolphins, talk some NFL. He joins us next on Hochman, Crowder, and Solana in the 5 o'clock Funky Buddha Happy Hour.
You're listening to the Hoch, Crowder, and Solana Show.
Rui Hachimura or Tua?